when I got it up to the surface, I think we was both mega shocked how big this fish was.
Oh my
and it
God.
was like, I mean, I think my PB at the time was 26. So I'm now looking at a fish way over double that, way over double that size.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Joining me today in the studio is Martin Clarke. Now, Martin's been carp fishing for over 40 years, and during this period, he's caught some amazing fish. He really hit the headlines over 20 years ago now when he caught 2 mid-40-pound fish from Summerleaze Lake. Now, at the time, this was the second biggest brace in carp fishing history. Along with writing various articles, he's also had 2 books published, Strictly Carp and Heads Down, Tails Up. His ideas and tips on everything from bait to rig development have really set the boundaries in modern carp fishing. And as you can imagine, he's got some great stories to share with us as well. So sit back and enjoy the show. Okay, Martin Clarke, we're live. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for asking me to come along.
It's really great for you to come on the show. I was your book Strictly Carp was one of my favourite ever carp books. I really enjoyed that, and we met by chance the weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, first time we've met. Yeah,
we were at Ian McMillan's charity fishing at Manor Fisheries, and you were there doing some filming stuff.
Yeah, well, me doing the film, it's a project I've had in my head for a long time, and I'm going to quit my job, basically, laying bricks. I've had enough of it. I've been doing it since I left school, and hopefully come Christmas time this will all get off the ground. So basically from now till Christmas I'll be running around all different places, filming lots of different people, interviewing lots of interesting characters. I can't say too much about it at the moment because I want to keep it sort of a surprise, but yeah, I just, how can I say it, it's weird. I mean, I've always loved chasing carp, but now I'm chasing different things. Like trying to chase people catching fish.
Yeah.
Trying to get it on film and all things like that.
That was a lovely weekend as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, such a brilliant turnout. I mean, it's a sad sort of time really because Ian passed so quick.
Did you know Ian very well?
Yeah, he knew me. I knew him. We met a few times over on Linear, actually. Couple of charity events as well, the motor neuron disease events over there. I sort of upset Ian once because he had sort of OCD about his tackle, and I knew that straight away. And me being a bit of a jinxer, I put some mud on the underside of it, on the real seat on his rod. So obviously he didn't see me doing it, but he knew. He must have. Obviously he's got to grab the rod and just obviously mud. So, and that's probably why he didn't like me, because I've never seen anyone with OCD like he had it. I mean, I'm surprised he went a Hoover in his bivvy. The ground sheet was like spotless. Everything was so neat. I'm sort of like, well, when I go fishing, I'm, especially the first sort of 4 or 5 hours, I'm so disorganised. There's bits here and there and everywhere, and it takes me sort of like probably 5 hours before I think, you know what, I better get things in order and put, so I know where they are, but Ian was the sort of bloke, it was like, all his tackle was mint, and it all had a place, and he was sort of one of these tidy anglers. The thing is with Ian is everybody knew that. Oh yeah,
and they probably used to antagonise him more as well. As a result.
Yeah, I'm sure other people played stunts on him too. I've no doubt Ian Russell played loads of stunts on him.
Everybody. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But the event was marvellous, and I mean. Les Bowers plugged it up massively on Facebook, as well other people did, raising money for the hospice. And I don't know what the final tally is, but I know it's over 160 grand.
It was about 100. Yeah, it was about 160 grand the weekend, and it's still going out. They're still at auctions.
Yeah.
Actually, talking of auctions, we on camera there, Tobe?
Yeah.
I bought this hat in the auction. Do you recognise this?
Oh yeah. Tink tongs.
It's it's hideous, isn't it? I mean, I wouldn't personally wear this,
but you
know
that's going to be a famous
I think that
hat.
really suit you. Actually.
It really is, because
everyone's going to remember that from now till whenever.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, it was great to see Kathy the weekend. Ian's partner. She came up and spoke to everybody, and she looked well considering what she's been through.
I must have been terrible.
Like
I say, getting back to the media project that I've got underway, it's not just for the website that I'm setting up, it's also for individuals. So as an example, I took loads of indiscreet photographs. You're probably aware of me photographing lots of different people, different angles and all that. So I will be sending those to the individuals, put on a shared folder and then ping it across. So it'll be a little bit of something.
Oh, that'll be cool. I've already had a few people texting asking about where they can get pictures from.
I mean,
so how do they contact you?
On the day, if I'm filming on the day, I will actually go and speak to them. I mean, the photographs for this event, I'm going to be sending to Andy.
Okay.
One of Ian's best mates and that. I mean, I asked Les who. I mean, as an example, the week before, I was at a Lucy Bowl event at Raisbury, raising money for guide dogs, and same thing there. I speak to the media man who's running the show and a couple of other people to send images. I think Ash Bradbury, I sent him a massive file, a load of videos, still images. It's just, if I happen to be filming them and they want it, I'll send it, because few clicks of the mouse and off it goes.
So expect to see you at these events, in the future. I'm planning to go to everything. I mean, I might be going I'm going to a wedding on Friday night, reception, and if I can not drink, I'm going back over to Linear first light Saturday morning, because it's the ACA event on Manor and St John's, and I've been invited to come along. And of course, it's busy at the moment, isn't it?
So it's these events, it's a great icebreaker. People are more relaxed. It's a totally different. You go and see people on their own. People feel like they're under pressure, but when at these events, everyone's so relaxed. I mean, it's like there was quite a few members of the, I wouldn't say members of the public, but carp anglers coming along to visit, just to speak to people, have selfies with people and things like that.
It's great, like you say. I think the fishing that the weekend probably came second, to everything else.
Oh, it did.
I fished with Ash Bradbury the weekend. Poor old Ash donated 500 quid to fish with me, and
that's daylight robbery.
Did you teach him anything?
Did I teach him?
Yeah, well, I thought that was the whole idea.
I learnt a bit off of him.
Yeah, oh, good.
Poor old Ash, right? He comes down to the lake. We're fishing a local lake, not far from Manor. So he comes down the night before.
Yeah.
So we get to Manor on time because I'm late for absolutely everything, and I think Ash probably knew that anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going down to the lake. He's driving. He's in front of me, and I'm following this black 12-plate transporter.
Okay.
The trouble is, Martin, I got to Oxford, still following this black transporter. Or what I thought
someone else's.
What I thought was his transporter,
yeah.
And I don't know how, right? But they mixed the vehicles up or something somewhere. I ended up in Oxford.
Oh right.
Yeah, and I'd missed the turning by like 20 minutes or so. Okay. I rang up Ash and said, Ash, what are you doing? We're in Oxford. And he goes, I'm not. I'm at the lake. Oh, Christ, I followed the wrong vehicle.
Oh, why?
I'm actually not surprised. I mean, I'm a little...
And then after that, I think he thought, Christ, what have I let myself in for here? We're both equally as slow at setting up, but he's a meticulous angler.
Hang on, I want to come back to that. We're not going to just gloss over that. At what point did you think, hang on, I'm going...
Well, the trouble was, Tobe, I like to sing a little bit.
Okay.
So I tell you, I tend to switch off a little bit. So
when the Sugar Babes or Spice Girls or something like that.
It wasn't. I'll tell you who it was. It was Ash's his brother's uncle, who's John Farman. You know The Voice?
Yeah.
And he keeps playing that song, right? He played the song to me the other night. These Irish female singers, they were singing it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I was lost. I was lost in that.
You're giving it the beans, singing away, driving away to Oxford.
Yeah.
And she's waiting for you at the lake.
Well, he thought I was behind him. It was only when I rang him, he just arrived, and I said, "No, I'm in Oxford."
Well, he weren't very considerate, was it? Really? I mean, every time I've got someone following me, I make sure they're still following me.
Exactly.
If I lose them, I'll ring them straight away.
Ash has seen Side take the wrong exit and gone, so you made that.
Ash is focused. He wants to go fishing.
Yeah. Now, I met Ashley the first time at that Lucy's Bowl event, and as luck would have it, he had he had one of the bigger ones. There's only a couple of 30s caught there. He had one of them. I got it all on film and everything, so it's great. Yeah, and he comes across as a really nice bloke. He even gave me some of his little cornet baits and that. So I'm looking forward to using them. They look very, very useful.
I've been using them, and the fish that I caught the weekend, they were all on that. I've caught quite a few fish on that recently. Yeah. I've actually been fishing recently, actually.
Oh, good.
But actually, so there was an auction as well, wasn't there?
Yeah. Well, I think on that weekend, I don't know. Like I say, the figures will come out. I think there was like $9,000 worth of tickets.
Yeah.
Just that weekend. And some of the raffle prizes and the generosity of some of the people.
Well, that showed how well he spread himself through the industry, wasn't it?
I wanted to. Believe you me, trust me, I put £300 in my pocket and I was going to bid on some of the things, right? And I did start off a couple of bids, but they just went way out of my range, I mean, the biggest prize I think was the week to Rainbow.
$2,500.
That was Dave Levy's guest, Kevin.
Yeah.
$2,500 for a week at Rainbow. Mental.
Going with Tom Dunlop, isn't it? So that
so generous, both of them.
I mean, people weren't afraid to bid for stuff, and it was. No. But it showed how much Ian spread himself through the industry.
Yeah.
Because all those.
I mean, I know Ian. Well, obviously everyone's got their haters, but I think Ian had a lot more lovers. Do you know what I mean? He obviously must have done, because there's just so many people there. I mean, if there is ever a sort of a when I pass away, if there's anything like that, I would be gobs. If Ian was watching up there, he would have been clapping all day long, all weekend long, and willing everyone's buzzers to go, So
he would have.
I think his partner will have long-lasting memories of Ian and the love and appreciation shown by all the anglers, since his passing.
Yeah, there's a film coming out as well. Simon McKay was filming it, and Simon's film work is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that'll be brilliant. So hopefully that's going to be out. I don't know. Maybe the next month.
He was walking around. I was getting around on a mountain bike, so I got a few things he didn't get. So hopefully he'll ask me for a few little snippets. I might ask him for a few little snippets.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, we paid. We bought this hat anyway. This was the last one available, actually.
Okay. And so you put it on the table.
Yeah, we're gonna put this in the on the table there because. So
that's your present for today.
Yeah, that makes a change, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll put that on there. So it was a great weekend anyway. Really enjoyed that, and you can still go on the Just Giving page and donate to the Dougie Macmillan Hospice, which is a great cause, and. They end up building a hospital, weren't they? Not just a hospice.
Talking of presents, I bought you one. You told me to bring one. Do you want
I haven't even had to ask you for a gift, have I?
No, I'm ahead of you. See, I'm ahead of
Martin,
the game.
have you got a nice gift for us?
I don't know if it's a nice gift, but I tell you what, you ain't got one anything, and I think it would look good up there one day. On the next podcast.
Okay.
So I better give me mate Phil a mention.
Drum roll, Toe.
I'll let the effect afterwards.
Right, okay. Right, a good mate of mine who fucking nearly killed himself a few weeks ago. He fell off a roof. lucky boy. But he's a carpenter. Well, it's a bit more than a carpenter. He's a joiner. He owns his own firm, making all bespoke oak stuff like wardrobes, staircases, doors, you name it. And he made me it. So he's got to make me one now, another one.
Right. Okay. There's a bit of suspense here, isn't there?
Wow. A Carpy cheese board.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That
so you either have it like that.
Feeding. Or
heads down, tails up.
Heads down, tails up, yeah.
Or like that. Or upside down, but like that. But
have you had a lot of use out of this?
No, I've not used it. It's a cheap.
It's quite heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's oak. Well, I think it's all oak segments glued together and.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
That's really cool. That.
So that's.
Crikey, we'd have to get some different guests.
So give us a capture shot to your camera. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
We do get some.
I tell you what, it's a similar shape to the one you caught the weekend, isn't it? Really.
Actually, we'll put a picture up of that one I caught the weekend. It was a real ugly one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I forgot to send you.
You really sold that picture. Yeah, we'll show everyone that really.
We put it on Instagram. Actually,
we're going to throw it on the screen here.
Yeah, no, we might put it up afterwards. But yeah, if you want to see those pictures, go on our Instagram page.
I've got video of it.
Have you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, we look forward to seeing that.
Yeah. I don't know if I have or not.
Do you know,
I've got so much video footage.
It was funny when I was playing that fish because here we go. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I'm sure I've got.
That's the sort of fish that only a mother would love. That fish.
Yeah, I've definitely got video footage of it. Yeah.
I think it looks alright actually. Yeah. I like those.
No, that was the ugliest one of the weekend.
Was it really?
Without a doubt.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Yeah. There's a few. I think every lake's got its ugly.
Do you know when I was playing that? When I was playing that fish in, when they're under the rod tip and it flicks off the.
What, you was hoping it would fall off?
No. You know when it flicks off the fin, and you go, God, that was lucky, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It flicked off, and Tom Stokes, who was stood with us, he said, it flicked off the rib. We got a few more of my pictures.
I was there. Don't forget, I was standing behind you.
That one's a bit better, mate.
There was another one as well, which I haven't got. I don't know what. That's actually on Simon McKay's film, so I caught 3.
There's a few good fish caught that weekend. Ian Russell had a nice scaly 30.
That was lovely, that fish, wasn't it? Yeah.
Dave Lee, I've got sort of on film and camera and whatever. Dave Lee, he had a nice 34 common. Lee Collins' guest had a 37 mirror. So there was, Tom Stokes had a really, I think Tom Stokes caught the prettiest carp of that weekend.
The linear one, wasn't it?
Yeah. First time I met Tom, great bloke.
Lovely guy he is.
Yeah.
He's great on the bank as well, Tone.
Yeah, he's a legend.
It's
so like I say, going back to the video project, I'm hoping that a lot of the people I've met.
Well, you got some nice stuff.
That, at some point I can do a little catch up with them.
Actually, one observation that you made, which we both made on the Saturday evening, the fish went really, really active, didn't they?
Yeah.
And so, if anyone that knows Manor, you've got those car park swims, haven't you? Which is a bit of a bay, and there were quite a few fish in there, weren't there?
Yeah.
And they went crazy, didn't they, for 45 minutes?
Yeah, well, and then the following day, exactly the same area. I hadn't really. Well, it was the same area. Like I say, you spent half your time asleep.
No, I did not. No, I'll tell you what, I shouldn't. We ended up
because you essentially sort of stayed in the same area fishing, whereas I was round the other side watching them from all different angles. So I know I was in that little sort of tight zone. Again, they was basically out in front of Lee, weren't they? But he was fishing out long onto a feature, where they did have a couple of bites from. But at a shorter range, I don't know, it seemed about 40, 50 yards. A lot of surface activity, and I'm sure everyone was going, you should be chucking zigs out, blah, blah, blah. But a couple of us sort of closely observed that, and these are the moments that you really wish you had a 200mm zoom lens and you was focused on what was really happening. I've seen it with pike come out and a little shower of little fry are ahead of them, where they literally chased them out of the water. And a few people did notice some fry coming out, whether they was roach. I mean, someone said they looked like roach. Some said they could be carp. I spoke to the person that said they was roach, and he said, "Yeah, I could see the silver shimmers." And generally, this time of year, roach. I think roach spawn a bit earlier than carp. So the roach, and I don't know why, but roach fry grow pretty quick, whereas carp fry are pretty slow. As an example, well, some. I mean, obviously you do get shooters and that, but in a natural lake, carp fry are behind the roach and the perch and all that. That's why a lot of carp don't get through, because they're being eaten by bloody everything.
So what we were witnessing there, do you think, similar to the in the ocean with the bait fish and then the whale coming up and just grabbing them? That's what you think was going on.
I do feel that. So, I mean, we've all seen like the David Attenborough documentaries about the natural world documentaries on I'm not saying carp swim around and make bubbles to bring up the bait fish into a shoal or whatever. But I do feel. Have you seen any programs with killer whales and the way they hunt? Like half a dozen of them. Those sort of like, how can I say it? They cover a wider area and then draw in. So they're sort of like pushing fish into a smaller concentration. And with shoalfish, like roach, rudd, perch, for example, they'll gather up in huge shoals, and as the shoal gets tighter and tighter, they feel safer and safer, to the point where you might, I wouldn't say like you'll have a ball of them, but you'll have a cloud, like I say, a cloud of them, and these clouds could be thousands of fish, thousands, and because they're swimming around and all they can see is their brothers and sisters in their eyesight, they don't see the carp coming along and just sucking them in, or pike coming along, mouths open, and
it's interesting that but those feeding periods they last for a limited amount of time, and then everything just goes back to normal again.
Yeah. I think. I mean, it's hard to say how many. How many? If carp are feeding. We know that they don't feed 24 hours a day. We know that. So their feeding spells, they might have a little feed every 4 hours in the summer. So they might only feed for half an hour, and then you get a break. We as anglers get it in our heads, or a lot of anglers get it in their heads that feeding time is going to be first thing in the morning, or in the middle of the night. Well, some are, some ain't. Every fish feeds at different times of the day. But there are times when, I think maybe more so on pressured waters, where carp know they're being fished for, and they know that if they eat anglers' baits, they could risk getting caught. Obviously, they like eating anglers' bait because they do get caught. We know that, but obviously, all the natural food is still there for them to eat at any point. Any time they want to eat it, they'll want to eat it, And in the summertime, there is going to be an abundance of fry, and carp will take up. They will. They know that.
They're very predatory. The other thing that we noticed was, the bait. We were using oils and liquids and stuff, so. The fish were on those spots quite a lot during the weekend. But that didn't equate necessarily to getting bites. So they're getting away with it a lot on those lakes, aren't they?
Well, this is why people come up with slightly different rigs and different presentations to try and. I mean, as an example, zig fishing wasn't really a fashionable thing 20 years ago. Now it is, though. Surface fishing again. Look, how many people did you see surface fishing that weekend? None. Not one. I mean, the fish I've caught off the top is unbelievable, but no one even bothered giving it a go, because everyone wants to catch them off the bottom, and they're going to stick it out, and again, if you're seeing fish showing, you think, oh, it's going to happen, it's going to, any minute I'm getting liners, they're on me, it's going to happen. But if they're used to seeing the same old rigs week in, week out, the carp sort of fathom a way of not getting caught so much.
I know in your book, Heads Up, Heads Down, Tails Up.
That's right, yeah.
You were talking about like margin fishing and line concealment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you were on somewhere like Man of the Weekend, how would you have fished it?
The thing about these events is did you draw for a swim? You first out the app picks?
Became second out the draw.
Oh, well.
Thanks,
right.
Ash.
Okay. Right, well that obviously with no prior knowledge, a lot, how can I say it? A lot of fishing comes down to knowing the lake. And obviously if you're turning up, you don't know diddly squat about the lake, you might struggle. You could get lucky and pick a good a good swim straight away, but knowing something about the lake does help, right? And obviously coming out one or two, you should be in what I would call pole position. Having said that, with the conditions that there were, the cart they went around the whole lake. They really did. They did tend to stay in a couple of areas, out in front of Lee Collins, for instance.
Do you think that's a natural area for them to want to hold back because it's kind of out of the main body of the lake?
Yeah, that part of the lake is only accessible from one swim, really. Well, sort of two swims. So it's a little bit of a quiet area. But Ian Russell was on your bank, so and he had a few bites. So
it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what? Because I know in your book as well, you were saying about like marker float fishing, and I love throwing a marker float out, and you turn up somewhere like that, and it's like it doesn't really feel like the one. Do you know what? I really do wish I put a marker float out there.
Yeah, I struggle to fish without a marker float.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't been there for a while. Things can change on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Weed beds grow, spots get bigger and smaller, as so a marker float is a good way of learning what's out in front of you. And I'm not saying you need to use a marker float all the time. I mean, where I first started fishing for carp was Woburn Sands. I might ping up a picture in a minute, but I started fishing Woburn Sands for carp. Before that, I used to fish for everything. So it wasn't until like 1980 that I thought, right, I've had enough. I've caught untold rudd, tench, you name it, and I stuck with carp.
We're looking at an early picture there.
Well, this is my first 20. 1980, so we're 40 years ago. Look at the hair on that, eh? I've got to say, I was a Led Zeppelin fan back in the day, so that was me.
That's a good head of hair.
Yeah, Jimmy
great,
Page,
isn't it?
Jimmy Page.
Well, at least you didn't need to pay for a perm or anything, did you?
Well, in fact, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, I've been with her 40 odd years. She was a hairdresser, so I let her experiment with me. So I must have had a perm. Look at me, eh? Yeah, that was stalked out the edge, one rod, side hook boilie. Obviously, the hair rig had come out that year. A few of us on there was just started using the hair rig, but that was actually caught on a side hooked bait.
You said you weren't a great fan of the hair rig when it first came out.
No. Well, anyone that's fished Woburn Sands or a lot of Bedfordshire waters will tell you they're a lot of the clay pits are gin clear. I mean, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't advocate doing it now, but I never used to carry any water down to the lake. I always used to drink the lake water, just dip the kettle in and drink it. It just, because the water looked, I mean, I didn't know nothing about Wills disease and stuff like that, and rats pissing in the lake. So, fishing a gin clear water, I mean, it is literally like tap water. You can learn so much by observing fish feeding. Yeah, and especially when you got rigs in place as well. It's all very well when there's no rigs in place, but when you've got rigs in place, you know that your rig's either working or they're not working. And the fact that you've got, it's either going to go or it isn't, you can see which ones work better. And I'm not saying you put your stopwatch by them, but obviously some rigs through a number of sessions becomes apparent that they're getting more runs than the other one, for one reason or another. Back in those days there was no one really telling us what to do. There's no carp bible, saying, oh, it's got to be done this way and that's the only way you got to catch carp. Obviously when carp fever come out, everyone jumped onto the hair rig, and obviously Lenny Middleton and Kevin Maddox, at that time we were advocating hairs like 2 or 3 inches long on a thinnest bit of mono or hair material you could possibly use, and I did use it, and I can remember there's a couple of swims on Woburn Sands that I named. One of them was called the Theatre, and I called it the theatre because you're literally standing above, 10 foot above the water, where your rods are, and then where they feed is sort of like 10 foot deep. So it's a bit like
it's like an aquarium.
It's a bit like fishing in an aquarium. You can see everything that's going on. If you remain still, the carp are not spooked. Especially when you're fishing slack lines. That was the first place I learnt the advantages of fishing slack lines. If you fish with a bobbin on, the chances of you getting a run are reduced 50%.
Really, that much?
Oh yeah. You put a tight line through the swim, and you cut your chances down straight away. How did
it look like they were reacting to the tight lines then?
They knew they was getting fish for.
It was just a discreet change in behaviour.
Yeah, they would. Other anglers used to put bobbins on. I knew that. They would get, the carp weren't frightened as such, they just, their awareness was raised another couple of levels. That's all. They weren't that. They see the bait on the bottom and they'll go and have a little mooch and feed, but you could tell that they sort of knew that they was getting fish for. And slack lines, super slack lines, they just thought, oh, someone's just chucked some bait in and gone home. So that's how I. Well, I suppose I don't know if I just done it out of thinking, and no one sort of told me, oh, fish slack lines and you'll catch more. No one ever told me that. I just started doing it, But what's the point of using a bobbin? I'm fishing 10 foot out, So I'll get back to the hair rig. I tried the hair rig, and I remember the junior 16th, I'm down there in the theatre fishing, a decent swim, decent spot. Got all these super fandango hair rigs out, and that first day I had 6 pickups down the rods, spools going, they're swimming off, little flick, nothing. Huh?
These were long hairs.
2 inch hairs.
Quite a long hair, yeah.
Well, 2 inch hairs.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's long. I've heard of people fishing
that's
long.
what they were using.
Yeah. So, these fish, they weren't big. There was, at that time, early 80s, there was like about 4 or 5 20s, and the rest of them sort of like mid to upper doubles, that sort of size. There's only about 40 carp in there. 5 acre lake, so not a lot of carp. But they obviously liked the bait we're using. Kept coming in, feeding. Obviously, if you're not hooking anything, you're not really spooking anything, So obviously, they might have been temporarily spooked where I've pulled the bloody bait out of their mouth as they're swimming away. But I'm absolutely convinced they picked the bait up, felt some resistance, and swam off with their mouth shut. So obviously I'm getting a 2 ounce lead. They're going to pick it up, and obviously if you're using a 4 ounce lead, it might have actually pulled the bait out.
So did you end up shortening hairs and stuff?
Yeah, so I think the first day I had six bites, and I thought, well, so much for this hair rig. I don't think I'm definitely doing something wrong here. And I just thought, well, hold on a minute, they're just not getting the hook in their mouths. So the following day, I've tied up some fresh rigs with 1/2 inch hair. I think I put 3 rods, all different, like 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch. And the next day I had 3 on the, 2 on the 1/4 inch and 1 on the 1/2 inch and nothing on the inch. So straight away I learnt that the bare hook was great, but the shorter the hair.
So that was an edge in itself then, wasn't it? What you were doing there?
Yeah.
But
I think as anglers, we on that lake, there was a few of us, we never really kept secrets.
Yeah.
We helped each other out in a way. Tell each other what. We were telling them what bait we were using, what rigs we were using, blah blah blah. But back in those days, the very early 80s, there was only a couple of braids. There was Millwall's Black Spider and Cortland Micron, and they was like shoelaces, crap really. And I think in fact that summer, I think it was like 81, 82, I went over to Vauxhall's other lake, which is Stanton Harcourt, which is one of your embryo lakes now, and I met a couple of blokes there, and they showed me a rig, and I'll never forget them because Andy Short and John Burrows. So we're really going back. I mean, there might be some people that know what I'm talking about. I should imagine 99% don't. I think John Burrows died in France. He was one of the first people to have a fishery in France, and he died in a road crash. So I've no doubt, had he still been alive, he would have been well known by now. But they showed me a rig, and it was a nylon multistrand, which was like 3 or 4 pieces of matchman's line. I mean, the going line at those days was Bayer Purlon. So I used to use 3 bits of 2.7 Bayer Purlon. That was brilliant at Elstow. In fact, I've used it at quite a few places. I mean, if they're really super spooky, or the water's gin clear and you're fishing in the margins, even today I would say try nylon multistrand, 3 bits of £3 line.
Don't you find it amazing that you can go from that extreme, which I mean that led to like multistrand and
in 1 year. I mean, dental floss was another good one. I mean, well, in fact, dental floss to me was better than there weren't no braids then. There was, but
looking at like boom materials that we use now, I mean, that would have been completely the opposite to.
The boom material. Well, you Korda booms. I mean, I do like. I use the Korda £35, for boom sections. That is relatively clear because it's sort of like a mono fluoro sort of material. But braids, like I say, back then,
they haven't.
Black Spider was black. We're fishing on clay, which is that colour, or even lighter sometimes, very light coloured clay. And Cortland Micron was white, so you had to sort of dye it yourself, with different coloured felt tip pens and that, So,
did you find all that made a difference?
I'll tell you what did make a difference was when Kriston come about. That again, I think that was early 80s. I think Kriston changed the way I can't even imagine how many miles of Kriston braid were sold in the 80s, 90s and that. I mean, obviously every company's got their own braids now. Every company has Korda, Gardner, Nash, Fox, you name it. They've all got the. But in the early 80s, it was Korda led the way with Braids, and again, I think Silkworm was the one I liked. Very, like almost like dental floss with the brown flecks going through it. Yeah, that.
It was just the quality of material just developed a lot then.
But again, the used to at Woburn and a couple of other Bedfordshire clay pits, you'd see them feeding, and they sort of, as they was getting caught, I wouldn't say every week, but as you can expect, I learned the places to fish, the swims to fish, how to fish them. So I'm getting repeat captures, and they all started to come a little bit. And obviously, other anglers were trying to catch him as well, and they did sort of like start becoming harder to catch. So I started experimenting with other rigs. I mean, that one you showed of Scaly, bang that up again. That was the fish to catch. That was like the prize of the lake, Scaly. I mean, that's £25 there. I think it was like early 80s, mid 80s probably in the winter. I had that fish 3 times, three consecutive years, all in December, and all at a record weight. I think 27.5 was my last weight, but that did go up to about 38. That fish,
pretty fish, wasn't it?
Yeah, tiny little dinky tail on it.
Yeah, little fins.
I think every year I caught it on a different rig.
Did you?
Yeah. So it was. I mean, being relatively young, in my early 20s, I started playing around with different rigs because you could observe what was going on. So I started going into sort of experimental rigs. And if you want to ping up a few, I mean, there's a couple of rigs. Again, no one showed me the way to go. So it's like, well, let's try this, let's try that.
You mentioned as well, sorry to interrupt you, Martin, you mentioned as well fishing with your dad and how you come across the knotless knot.
Yeah, when I was a boy, we used to fish for everything. My dad taught, he was, I don't know, he was a bit methodical. He'd use cockles for carp and bread for bream and meat for chub and imp tears for roach and things like that. So he sort of tried to make me follow those lines, so to speak. But I didn't. I listened to him at parts, but then I'd get bored and go and try my own things. Like, as an example, I went spinning for chub, and I caught, I think I was about 13, 14. I had a £5 chub on the old copper Mep spinner or whatever they were.
Is that what you're like generally by nature? You like to just go off and do your own thing?
Yeah. I mean, my dad let me go wherever. I mean, started off fishing Frogmore Lake when we used to live in Bournemouth, and then when we moved to Luton in 1970, he used to work in Watford for Sun Printers. So he used to take, during the school holidays, he used to take me and my mate to Inns Lake, which is opposite the Waltonians. And so we'd be on the lake as well, anything from like 12 to 14-year-olds on our own, and he'd go off to work. So me and my mate, we just fish for whatever, We stayed on the lake. We didn't go wandering off down the high street or whatever. So we sort of behaved. But I sort of learned that obviously my dad always used to use spade end hooks, and he taught me how to fish, tie spade end hooks. But I started to realise that when I started working Leslie's as a Saturday boy, in the early, I think it's 1974 when they come to Luton. Obviously, other anglers talk about other things, and I think it was Amptill Club had just got they had Kempston Hardwick, and they just got hold of Brogborough, which is like a 200-acre clay, again another clay pit. London Brick Company dug most of the lakes out in Bedfordshire actually, and it was a phenomenal rud water. And at the time, when they first got hold of the fishing, the rudd fishing was phenomenal. People were coming in and going, unbelievable, you've got to get over there. Got to, 200-pound bags of rudd. And it was all like, I mean, I joined it straight away. Got my dad to join it, and there was you'd be fishing in clouds of rudd. The shoals were like just incredible. They just looked like weed beds, 50 yards long, 50 yards wide, thousands of rudd, thousands, and like most of them were like over a pound. You just lose count how many 2-pounders you used to catch. And the best method, I mean, my dad used to use, like, he tried emp and tears, but then he sort of went on to maggots. But some of the match anglers were telling me, get on the corn, get on sweet corn. This is like early 70s, mid 70s. And the reason being is you just needed 1 grain of corn on a size 10 hook, which sounds big for match fishing, but it was all about hooking them. There's no finesse about it. You didn't need no finesse. You just cast, let a slow sinking grain of corn in amongst all these rudd, and you get a bite every cast. You catch one, and of course, I don't think you could get size 10s in spade end. There's all eyed hooks, and it just so happens that the one match angler he says use these gilt hooks. I can't remember if it was mustard hooks or whatever, but there's like gold, And of course, my dad. No one's ever taught me how to tie an eyed hook on. So I used to tie them like with a spade knot. And for some reason, I one day or one evening, because my brother used to take me fishing as well, I whipped it on a different way. And I thought, well, that's handy. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought, that's handy, I can make my own hooks to nylon. So what I used to do was use like £4 on my reel and use £2, make my own little hooks to nylon with £2 mono, and wrap them around some plumber's foam, like what they put around pipe lagging and that, So I'd make my own little hooks to nylon using what's now known as the knotless knot. And at the time I didn't know what it was, so I just never thought of naming stuff or whatever. And the funny thing was, I met my dad going fishing with my dad once, and I think I told you earlier. One area of Broadborough Lake is all these bars go out into the lake, so we used to fish on. One would fish on one end of one bar, and the other one on another bar. And I was catching a lot more than my dad. So he's come round to see what I was doing, and obviously he's using maggots and I'm using sweet corn. And he says, "Oh right, you're using corn, are you? Why didn't you tell me?" I says, "Well, I says you always used to catch loads more than, whenever you catch more than what I did. So now's my time just to catch more than you." And he see me hooks to nylon as such round the pipe lagging light, So he's picked it up and started looking at it, and he says, "Oh, what's this thing?" I said, "Well, they're my hooks to nylon." So I told him what I was doing, £4 reel light, because my dad was old fashioned, like he'd use £4 straight through to the hook or whatever, and I was using like hooks to nylon. So obviously you get a slightly better presentation with like the thinner mono. I mean, you'd never get a £2 or £3 rudd snapping you off on a £2 hook link, So I just use a loop to loop, and obviously if you, how can I say it? When you're using straight through to the hook, there's times when you need to change your hook, or your blunt hook, and you need to change your hook. And of course, if you're using shot, you've got to slide it all up and start adjusting your float and all that again. Whereas hooks to nylon, that's why match anglers like it, because you just go loop to loop, bang, you're fishing again. So it turns out I was doing two or three things that were catching me more fish. One was like the hooks to nylon, and maybe the knotless knot, using an eyed hook, was giving me a slightly different. I mean, at spade end, you did get a good sort of, the line used to come off the hook.
Yeah,
nice
nice and straight. Yeah,
and that was why I think why they use spade ends. But you was getting a little bit of a kick with the they're not what's now known as a monotonous knot. I think during the early 80s, I think a few people started getting onto. I wouldn't say I invented it. I wouldn't be surprised if a few people come up with that sort of concept of
it's a much easier way of creating something very similar, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
You know?
yeah, and obviously when I started fishing Woburn in the early 80s, well, I say, I don't know, 82 when I went to Stanton, and they told me about the nylon multistrand, and if you try tying up a rig with nylon multistrand, I'll tell you now, it's a damn sight easier using a knotless knot. You know, used to tie, make up get 3 bits of equal lengths, tie them in a granny knot either end roughly, but then thread it through knotless knot, and it's a lot. Then untie that knot, start again. So
exactly.
By the time you've gone through the process of tying the whole rig, everything is equal length, but it does lay a lot nicer on there.
And I mean, carp fishing's kind of evolved into that now, where it's like you don't want to be tying up rigs nowadays where you only get one chance.
No, well, this is again getting back to the manner thing about rigs. I mean, as you know, a lot of us sort of older anglers. I wouldn't say you're in my age bracket, but
I'm a little bit behind.
Yeah, you're a bit behind. You got the grey hair to match.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's been there for a while.
We all tend to find rigs that we gain a lot of confidence in, so you tend to use them more often than not, and that is where half of us are going wrong. Rather than finding a rig to suit the bottom, we're finding the bottom to suit our rig. If you see what I'm getting at. So we're all sort of like, we all want to be on that super clean spot at 65 or 20 wraps or whatever, whereas hold on, there's a shitload of other water there that's not getting any pressure, fish wise, and I mean we'll talk about rigs in a minute, but I remember fishing Lockwood Reservoir, and it's weird, the fish were a lot more confident feeding on, I was trying to catch them on boilies, and obviously Lockwood Reservoir was patches of clear spots in amongst weed. There was loads of clear spots in the margins. I think that's where I went wrong, but what I did notice was they was easier to catch fishing on the weed than fishing on the clear spots. Right. So they was easier tripped up on the fishing in a rig in.
Is that just because Lockwood wasn't that pressured? Was
no, it wasn't pressured, but it's just that
what they preferred to actually.
Well, sometimes I think presentation can be easier when you're fishing on weed than it can be when you're fishing on the bottom. And again, getting back to the pop-ups versus bottom baits, when you've caught a lot of fish on pop-ups, you sort of like, in your head, you've got to fish pop-ups all the time.
Everything's that.
And I've literally gone years when I've fished pop-ups, and I've gone years when I've fished bottom baits. And again, we'll talk about it later on, but again, Elstow, for instance, so many people have caught on pop-ups. Everyone that's fished it has caught on pop-ups. But the last few years I fished it, I was using bottom baits, and I couldn't go wrong. If you want to pop up some rigs, Toby, we'll talk about some of the rigs.
Are you surprised that people tend to favour pop-ups more than bottom baits nowadays? I mean, it's like, for me personally, I'd rather match everything and fish the way, a carp naturally wants to feed.
Well, carp naturally want to feed on the bottom. We think that, but they don't. Carp will take a bait anywhere from top to the bottom. Years and years ago, I had a fish tank in my old house, and a 200-gallon fish tank, and I had some Summerleaze babies in there. The biggest one was like £6, a bit too big for a fish tank. But what I did do, I don't know why, I took some snails home, and I was interested to see what I was hoping that the snails would keep my glass clean, save me brushing off the algae that grows on the side of the. I was just interested to see what the snails would do, whether they go up and down, chewing the algae off the glass. And yeah, they did do it to some degree, but snails are like mini submarines. They can control their buoyancy and go up and down the water column whenever they want. And in fact, for those that are aware of what snails do, obviously they spend a lot of time on the bottom going through weed and going through the silt and that. But when they come to the top, they turn upside down and obviously taking in oxygen or I don't know. Sometimes they like when you watch them on the surface, you get like foam. They start foaming. But believe you me, they can go up and down like a submarine. They're very slow when they do it. When they're going up, they're not quick, or quick coming down or going up. They're very, very slow. I mean, I wouldn't say I've timed them because I've only used them in the fish tank. But this is why zigs, in my opinion, have been so good, because people didn't, once people latched onto the fact that you could catch them mid-water, then zigs become more popular. But in my opinion, they've been having, for as long as we can remember.
Do you still think that the conversion rate between bottom baits and pop-ups, do you think a pop-up is more efficient?
No, because and again, it all depends on what lake you're fishing. On a pressured lake, I think you're going to get all sorts of conflicting opinions. There'll be areas or anglers that will catch, simply because they got pop-ups on all three rods. I've been to lakes where using a pop-up was detrimental. And like the last, when we get talking about the lakes, I'll go through the lakes. But if you go back to all those this rig here on the left on screen.
So do you want to just explain what we're looking at there?
Going back to the Woburn days, I never even named this rig. This is a rig that I put into one of the early big carp magazines, and something that I used at Woburn Sands. Now, if you can, anyone who's got Strictly Carp or the old big carp magazines have probably seen this rig, and this was before I come up with a rig called the snake rig and the scorpion rig. But as you can see, it's not your conventional hair rig. There's no bait coming off the hair on the hook. All there is a little bit of foam, either super glued to the.
Sorry, is that foam? Is that to balance the hook in position?
That's just simply to. That there is just simply to allow the hook. How can I say?
It's like having a bit of a buoyancy aid.
Yeah, it is a buoyancy aid, but when a fish sucks at something, there needs to be something for them to
needs some
mass,
inertia, yes.
a mass or an object to suck in.
Yep.
Even if you could probably catch carp on a bare hook on the bottom. If you've got fish feeding on seed, hemp party mix or whatever. They are mouthing the bottom.
Oh, I know people that have done that.
And it is possible to catch. I've never done it myself. You could possibly catch them on a bare hook just by accident, as such. They've got food items in their mouth, and obviously a bare hook's got more chance of catching hold. Now, this rig, as you can see, the pop-up is mounted on a little ring and on a separate little piece of dental floss with a shot. So all there is a split shot holding that bait to the bottom, and the hook link can slide through that ring that's attached to the bait. So my thinking was, all I want is the carp to suck at that boilie. Now, if the boilie and the hook go in, fine, it's going to work either way. But if the suck's not quite enough suck to get the boilie in, then hopefully the critically balanced hook might go in. Yeah. And again, you're also going to get that separation factor.
Well, you're almost fishing like a bare hook rig there, aren't you?
Yeah.
But using the boilie to...
as an attraction.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that, I mean, that's generally for fishing like over weed, light weed. When I say weed, I mean... Like,
so would you be fishing that over bait or anything, or just...
Yeah, with bait as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as a singlet bait. I mean, I don't know how that come through my head. I just thought, you know what? I just wanted to try something different.
And how effective was that?
Well, I come up with a few other rigs as well.
Yeah.
Around that point in time, and like I say, in the early '80s, my brain, even today, I struggle to go to sleep. I'm thinking about tackle. I'm thinking about rigs, bait. It's weird. I can't explain how my brain works, because there's times when I'll be thinking about rigs. And there's times I'll be thinking about bait, and there's times I'll be thinking about tackle or venues. I'll dream about something different every night.
Hence the reason why you had to write a book on it. It's just everything's just...
that's the reason for writing. And again, we go to this rig here. Again, going back to the original hair rig, when we had 3 trains of thought, basically. We had the Maddox, Middleton train of thought come off the bend of the hook. Then you had your Rod Hutchinson train of thought, which was like coming off the shank or coming off the eye of the hook. And then you had Roger Smith with the D rig. And of course I tried all 3 of those. And to be honest, Roger's D rig was the best out of 3. Although a lot of people still use the knotless knot or whatever coming off the eye of the hook, or on the shank of the hook, and there's loads of carp caught by it. I'm not dissing any rig, because loads of rigs will catch loads of carp.
So why do you think Roger's rig was the most efficient?
Just the separation factor and the ejection. This is another thing carp people don't realise, is how many times a carp is actually sucking in your bait and blowing it back out. And sometimes they're blowing it out very close to the bottom, so they literally they might be feeding an inch away from your hook baits, and sucking and blowing all the time. It's weird that sometimes I think, carp are greedy, and if they, for example, if you've got 200 or 300 boilies in a tight area, say the size of this tape, right, you put 200 baits on in this area of the table. Now, a carp's not going to come down, take one boilie, off he goes swimming, eat it, come back, another one boilie. They're not. You might get the odd carp do that, but at Woburn they tended to come down, take 2 or 3, if not up to 6 baits, then move off, chewing them. Come back a minute too late, 2 minutes later, come back into the swim, take 2 or 3 or 5. It's weird. Sometimes you got. I mean, I've seen carp at Woburn and at Elstow, lift off the bottom and spit out 5 baits. And you're thinking, hold on, what? Why did you spit it out? But you can't. Get into a carp's mind. Why did they do that? And sometimes I think it's a bit like a squirrel. I mean, a squirrel will gather up loads of bait in their mouth, loads of acorns or nuts or whatever, and they go and bury them. Right. Well, hold on, why don't you just eat them?
Yeah.
Well, no, they're saving them for. They know they put them in a safe place, so they know where they are, and the other squirrels don't. So they've all got their little hiding places. And I've actually observed carp at Elstow literally take half a dozen baits here, swim about 3 yards, spit them out, and then start eating them individually.
You just can't.
But
it could be the same thing. Yeah.
Well, and again, getting back to Roger's D rig. I mean, I used Roger's D rig and caught, and then again, I don't know how my brain works. I thought, you know what? One thing about a D rig, as you know, the D is fixed at 2 points, the top and at the bottom. And how long you make that D is still fixed at the top and at the bottom. And I thought, well, why not try it not fixed at the bottom? So if a carp takes the bait in the mouth and blows it out, well, the bait will blow off the rig and hopefully leave the hook in its mouth.
God, that's brave.
It sounds brave, but you got, when you're fishing in the edge and you're watching and you know exactly where your bait, I mean, there was a couple of times, very few times, in fact, but there was a couple of times when all of a sudden I'll be watching and all of a sudden my pop-up will pop to the top and I go, there's only one way that happens, and that's a carp sucking that in, blowing it out and getting away with it. So what I tended to do was, again, over the course of a season, I started off with a little short D. If you imagine, if you can see that rig closely, that length of mono.
So we're looking at a hook that on a hair which has got so a D rig with no end to it.
Yeah, but what I did there was use that at that point in time I was using dental floss. So I go back to the early 80s, right? Probably the first time I tried this rig, I was using dental floss. Okay. And the D part of it was sort of like either 12 or 15 pound mono, but I super glued that to a little bit of not shrink tubing. It was just like plastic tubing at the time. You just about barely get it over the hook. Rig tubing, but 1 mil bore rig tubing, and obviously you put the kink. With mono you can kink it as such. Give it a tight old squeeze, and you put a kink. So where that pop-up is resting in is that kink.
That's the kink there. Yeah.
So originally I tried it with like the actual length of it was only coming to where the knotless knot is, and that's when I've had a couple of occasions where the bait popped up, they got away with it. So I extended the D to make it even longer. So so the end of it was coming below the eye of the hook. And I tended to find that was when I never had any occurrences of the bait popping to the top. So I don't know. It's one of them. Again, getting back to pop-up rigs, it's my brain was going in overdrive at that time. If you flick up the next rig, I think we come to the snake rig. The scorpion rig, where I'd taken things another stage further. And the whole object being with the scorpion rig was they'll suck the boilie, but not actually get the boilie in their mouth. They just get the hook in their mouth. And again, I sort of I originally started fishing on top of weed.
There was a real evolution with your rigs here, wasn't there? I mean, so
yeah. Again, no one was trying to set anything like this at all. This is showing it fishing obviously close to the bottom, but the object is with fish feeding, they're not spooked until they're hooked. Okay, and as an example, I've watched you'll get a couple of fish that might attempt to suck at it but not actually get it, but they're not spooked in any way, so they carry on feeding, and eventually one will trip up. We know that. Even with any rig, some fish will trip up, but because I was the only one using this rig, so it was only my own personal result. So I was, and again, I was fishing it on top of weed, so I was using a 3-foot hook link straight off the lead. So you can imagine this sitting above the weed. All there was sitting above the weed was a pop-up, a little short drop with back in those days we used to make our own. We used to make our own lead wire, and you could buy lead wire in 2 mil. No one sells it now at 2 mil, but I got my dad to make me some moulds to make lead wire as such, and that's just something learnt from my mates. I mean, our little clique of anglers, we used to pass information on to each other. And do you remember they made tungsten tubing? And I think Evo made it, and it came in lengths of about 3 inches long. You could trim it to suit whatever. And it was great for critically balancing pop-ups. You just shave a little bit.
That's right, yeah.
And again, that was, I mean, that around that in the say, what would that be? I think that come out mid to late 80s that time.
So did you catch many fish with that presentation?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty satisfying, when you're seeing a rig like that. I mean, the bait there it's not mounted on the hook, and it's absolutely nowhere near the.
No. I was using a little bit of yellow foam, literally the size of a maggot. Not even that. Well, yeah, probably about a maggot, the size of a maggot, half the size of a maggot, sort of thing. Glued to the hook, or sometimes I used to just gently side hook it, but. There, it's just glued on.
Ingenious. I mean, if you're seeing that sitting on the weed like that,
it will still catch today.
Yeah,
it looks fiddly to tie. That's the snake rig. The scorpion rig is slightly different. Have we got one of the scorpion rigs?
I haven't got one here. No.
Right. Well, basically that is one hook link material. Okay. The scorpion rig is same as that. Almost.
Is that the one you caught the Summerleaze fish on? Did you catch that scorpion?
No, that was on a different fish.
Right.
That was completely different. The scorpion rig goes one stage further than the snake rig. That is, again, people will have to look through the record books or go on to various Google it. You know what I mean? You'll find the scorpion rig. Somewhere
or buy Strictly. Can you still buy Strictly Carp nowadays?
Well, you might. You can. I'm not suggesting anyone. The reason I'm not suggesting anyone buy Strictly Carp because I don't want them to. I had a little bit of a fallout with Rob Malin, and I'm not going to, throw my toys out of the pram and speak about it. But when I wrote Strictly Carp, it wasn't much of a fallout really. It's had a few print runs. Let's just talk it that way. The first print run was where we had the infamous carps.
Right.
So
can you explain why you were using that term?
Well, let's just get this little bit out of the way.
Right.
The last print run that Rob done, he asked me. He got wind I was writing a new book, and asked me would I do a newer version of a second edition of Strictly Carp, and I said, look, no, Rob, because I'm writing a new book, and all the material I want in my new book. I says, and he says, well, you could just add a chapter, and we take the word carps out, and I'll do this and do that. But what he did was he took the word carps out of the book, which I was happy to, but he also added a header on every other page, and he misspelt Strictly. He's put a K in there instead of a C.
Oh dear.
And that sort of upset me. And Rob, as soon as I told, Rob got them printed and then realised it. And Rob was very apologetic about it. Give him his due, apologise and whatever. But it sort of upset me in a way. I thought, fuck me, you spoilt a good book, really. Right, getting back to the word carps. Now,
so Rob was very keen for you to.
Rob wasn't against it in any way.
Right.
Rob. I mean, when it was spelled, when they'd done the spell checking and the editing for a book, because when you write a book, I mean, what I did was most of it I wrote pencil and paper, because that was the quickest way I could write. I couldn't type. I was on one finger like that sort of thing. So. With writing, the quicker you get it out of the head, the better, right? So what I did was I literally wrote half of it pencil and paper, and then I typed it up. And right from the get-go, I was insisting, in my head, I wanted to write the word carps. More as the plural side of it, so people understood I mean, some people, it's a bit of a weird one, carp and carps, because you probably don't realise you're talking about 20 fish or one fish, if you know what I mean. And overseas, they understand it easy, especially the Dutch, right? Now, as I'll just explain the word carps and why I chose to use it. As an author, you can use any word you like, even if it don't exist, right? But the word carps did exist 200 years ago in Old English speaking terms. And the weird thing is with words, why is it that there's 200 or 300 words added to the English dictionary every year? Well, hold on a minute. How can you manufacture words? But that's the beauty of writing. That's the English language. We are making up words every year, and they're getting included. So why not, in my eyes, bring back words we used from the past? I mean, I don't know. They may put carps back in. If everyone started using the way they choose words now, I don't know if you know, you probably do, is if certain words are used so many times in so many areas of the press or public or public language, that's when they include them. And there's obviously people compiling all these new words, like selfies. The word selfies was never a word 50 years ago. Selfies? What the fuck are you talking about? So that's one of the new words. There's loads of new words, as you know. But going back to the word carps, it was my decision to use it. Wasn't Rob's idea, and I was adamant it was going to go in because a lot of people ain't aware that, I don't know if it was Isaac Newton or something, there was a little ditty from a couple of 100 years ago, and it went something like this: turkey, hops, carps and beer were brought to England in the same year. And that goes back hundreds of years ago. And it's a fact that turkey, hops, harps and beer were brought to England in the same year. So that's why I chose to, and I always remembered that. So,
well, I mean, it must have had a bit of an influence for you to want to use that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
did a lot of people get in touch with you and say, why did you use that word?
No.
I remember reading it for the first time. I thought it was strange.
A lot of people thought it was strange. Obviously, I never explained. I could have explained myself somewhere in the book. I did explain myself a few times here and there over the years. But in a way, I think it turned out as a bit of a selling feature because people were talking about it. And any publicity is good publicity.
Everybody remembers that,
people going, what's it? So they probably, let's go. Have you got a copy? No, I'll sod it. I'll go out and buy one. You know what I mean? 20 quid or 21 quid, whatever it was. So they went out and bought it. And
well, I mean, it was a great book.
The weird thing is now, if you obviously on social media now, the word carps pops up here, there, and everywhere now. Nothing to do with me.
Oh, it's your fault, isn't it?
Well, you could blame it on me, but people are making up words, all the time. So.
But the standout, I mean, the cover to that book, you had the Summerleaze fully scaled.
Yeah,
on the cover.
Let's ping up a picture. Let's see what pops up next on the picture.
I found that first. Just
you found the scorpion rig. So there you go.
Where did you find the scorpion rig then?
I don't mess about.
Googled it. Yeah. Tom's not messing about. Yeah. So as you can see, it looks similar to the snake rig, although similar mechanics, but believe it or not, this one's sort of twice as efficient.
Sorry, how long's that hook link?
That hook link there is only literally 50 mil long.
It's like a little PVA bag rig.
Yeah. I deal with PVA bags.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started using it, I did PVA them together, but to be honest, I caught most of the fish without even PVAing it together. And the weird thing was, when that rig come out, one angler come up to me at one of the conferences. He says, "You know what?" He says, "I always thought that was a tangle rig. I always thought, that's going to tangle up." He says, "But I done an experiment one day. I made up a rig, and I threw it into my bath, into a bath full of water from about 3 or 4 yards away." And he looked at it, and it was bob on. It was cock on. It just settled.
You can't get it to tangle.
You could get it to tangle, and the only way I've had it sort of cock up is I've had the actual hook embedded into the boilie.
That's pretty clever. That looking at that, isn't it?
It looks good, but it does work. I didn't design it just so it looked good on paper, but
you can see.
Getting back to, I've never getting back to this, doing this little video magazine type blog. I'm going to be doing a lot of rig tying, and again, I'll go through every rig that's ever been done, whether it's my rig or it's other people's rig. I will talk about it in my own little way, tie it up in my own little way. And again, I don't try every rig in the book everywhere I go. Obviously you get your favourites, and again, getting back to the fact that we all sometimes lazy, but you got to have, wherever you go, you got to have some sort of starting point. So you tend to start with what you got confidence with from elsewhere, from the last lake you fished or from your last session. So you all have your starting points for every lake or every session. You know what worked last time or what didn't work, so you try something different, or and we all tend, I think some anglers tend to do it to have, like, they'll have their rig board and they've got 3 or 4 different types of rigs. So they go, right, well, I'll try this, I'll try that, I'll try that. So they might try 3 different rigs or 3 different bait presentations or different colour pop-ups or whatever. And then they'll take it from there. And as what you tend to do, if you get a take on one, I'll try 2 on that. Put 2 rigs on those yellow pineapples, or 2 rigs on those bottom baits or pop-ups or whatever, and then you sort of go from there. And what you tend to do is you come to a point in time where you go, do you know what, I'll put all 3 rods on that. There's a lot of anglers will put 3 rods on use the same rigs, same bait. When their confidence is high, we all have our moments in time where our confidence will be high, our confidence will be low, and that's when when it's low, we'll try different things, and when it's high, we tend to gravitate to the ones we know that are working.
You don't work like that. You work differently to that.
No, I work the same as every other angler. It's just that I've had a few tricks up my sleeve, and I've got 3 rigs that I'm gagging to do on video. I'm going to try and save them for my own little thing. Gardener, I'm going to be doing a gardener podcast in a few weeks' time, or next week maybe, I don't know. I'm not sponsored by anyone as yet. I know someone's going to pull, with the next, guarantee you before Christmas I will be sponsored by someone. I'm not trying to be big-headed in any way. I've turned down sponsorship deals I've turned down about 10 sponsorship deals in the last 2 years. But
why is that? Why do you not take those? You don't want to be too committed to using certain tackle, or?
Well, at this point in time, I'm fishing a couple of waters that are sort of publicity sensitive in a way. I'm gonna start fishing waters where I can publicise fish. That's what's going to be changing for me over the next few years. I'm still going to fish these publicity shy waters, but because of this video project, I'm going to be fishing more so on waters that don't mind me publicising. And the reason again for the publicity and the non-publicity side, in the past I've had my motor scratched, I've had my tyres let down, I've had maggots poured down the grill, of the vent, in front of your windscreen, that sort of, and by not publicising or being out of the public eye, so to speak, I'm not getting that. Trust me, if I catch anyone doing anything to anyone's vehicle, right, I will. If I don't grass them up, I'll punch them in the jaw. Because they're being arseholes. I mean, I ain't the only person that's had it. Everyone's got. Anyone in the public eye, carp fishing wise, have had their haters, right? And if I see someone doing something to someone's car or van, I will grass. I don't give a shit. I'll grass them up.
No, I found it.
And if I catch something doing something to my vehicle, I won't bother grassing them up. I will just go. I'll start a fight, and that's me. I don't give a shit how big they are.
But the sponsorship thing is down to that. You can't.
Yeah, with getting back to the sponsorship side, people seem to think that because you're sponsored, you're making it harder for them to catch fish because you get loads of bait free or you get loads of tackle free. I wouldn't say the haters are jealous. There are obviously some that are jealous. And I don't mind wearing a t-shirt. I don't mind promoting people's stuff. At the end of the day, I'm not going to lie. If I'm using Richworth boilies or I'm using mainline boilies or whatever, I feel obligated to wear their shirt. And if people diss me for wearing a t-shirt, then that's their problem. It's not my problem. I'm quite happy to. I won't use something simply because they're sponsoring me. I'll use it because I want to use it.
No. So wait and see over the next few months.
Something's going to happen, whether it'll be a bait sponsorship deal or tackle or whatever. But
all right, mate. Let's get into some of your campaign fishing. I mean, that's what I enjoyed from the book as well. There was a nice variety of different waters in there.
Yeah. Well, obviously in the 80s, I mean, being a bricklayer, I'm not a full-time angler. Never have been, never will be. And to me, campaign fishing wasn't really a thing. I was aware that there was big carp at other places, but it wasn't until I started going to a few slideshows. Rob Malin was a big influence in our area. He used to run the CIA group, and then a couple of my mates started off the Carp Society group. So used to see quite a few people do slideshows in the Luton, Dunstable area. And I always, the funny thing was, Rob Malin, changing subjects quickly, Rob Malin had a little group of anglers, their little clique, they called it.
Famous Five.
The Famous Five. Obviously, if you've read any of Rob Malin's books, or the early ones of Tiger Bay and whatever, be aware of it, Steve Olcott and Lockie.
They're my favourite books.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good little thing, really, but me and my mates, we didn't take the Michael out of Rob, but we called ourselves the Almost Famous Five. And it was a sort of it was a funny thing, really, because we was like a slightly younger generation. We was probably like 2 or 3 years behind them, but in no way was they 2 or 3 years ahead of us in terms of that. Maybe in the bigger fish what they was catching, but when we started fishing the same waters, as an example, Harefield, we was just as capable of catching as they were, but just before I joined, I mean, my mates joined Harefield in 1986. So they was on there a year before me. My mates Gary and Simon.
Was it quite quiet on there then? It kind of had like a rebirth, didn't it? We was on there probably the early stage. I mean, when I joined, well, just before I joined, let's try and keep the years rolling on. The year before I joined, I saw a Rod Hutchinson slideshow he done in Luton, and it's all about casein in south of France.
and I was blown away. I mean, well, I can't remember how big the fish were, like, you know, the slideshows, but yeah, big carp, 50, 60 pounders or whatever, you know. And I'm just like jaw drop, like look, watching it. And if you hear, I mean, God bless him, he's gone now, Rod, but he was a great talker. I mean, the stories he could tell, he had everyone like that, you know. No one talked Rod Hutchinson, or no one. The talks I saw of Rod Hutchinson, no one talked in the background. It was all like ears on Rod. And anyway, I watched this slideshow. I thought, got to go there, right? And somehow I managed to talk my girlfriend. Well, yeah, she was my girlfriend. I don't think we was engaged. No, we weren't engaged yet. Well, she's now my wife. I've been with her over 40 years. Louise, I love you. Yeah, I'll probably get her to watch this. Yeah, Louise, her name is. Managed to talk her to go into Cassien, south of France. And we went down there in my Astra van for a 2-week holiday as such. Went down there, armed to the gunnels, 2 sacks of peanuts, 20 kilos of dry base mix, 30 kilos of dry base mix, the flavours, 20 kilos of rolled bait. I was gunning. I didn't know what I was doing, but so you didn't really speak to anyone else apart from what you heard on the slideshow? All I knew was where it was, and that was it. Was there a similar reaction to that lake, in this country? Was it really, really big initially? Did it take a long time?
Oh, it was huge.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, up to that point, the biggest lake I'd ever fished was I don't know if I was Sturtby or Brogborough. They're both about 200 acres. I don't know how big Cassien is. I mean, just it's north, south, west arm. Each arm is 500 acres, I would suppose. I can't even. I'm not totally sure. So we look at over 1,000 acres. You can't see one end to the other. No. to row from one end to the other would take you hours. Did you know what you were getting into when you? No, I had no idea what I was doing. So you come across the dam bridge at the start, and is that the first time you saw the? Christ, a lot of stories I could go into. The first day, we done a good thing. We got on a train, got off at Calais, put the car onto a travelling overnight train, my van rather. So we had a cabin. And the weird thing was, we went on Friday the 13th, and we was in cabin 13. So that was a bad omen from the start. And so we got down there the next day, and the very first day, right, me and the missus, we were driving. Didn't know. I had to get my bearings of where we were, So yeah, pretty much sussed out where we was, and you can drive round a fair portion of it, So we drove down the south arm. And anyway, got to the very end of the south arm. I thought, hold on a minute, this lake's fucking massive. So I got the map out, and I thought, Christ, to get all the way round, we're talking like 36 mile drive. It's like 36 miles. It's like driving around a village, you know what I mean? I thought, I could get lost here. I said, let's head back from where we come from and try and get our bearings, So anyway, we literally turned round, headed back the other way, and as we're driving back towards Pierre's Cafe or restaurant, whatever it was, there was a head-on road crash, literally 2 minutes in front of us. So I've literally pulled up. The roads scattered with car parts. These two cars literally drove head-on into each other, right? So, jumped out. I've run over, one car was just, I couldn't tell you what car it was.
Right.
It was that badly smashed up. I could not tell, even to this day, I couldn't tell you what car it was. So I've run over to this car. There's all smoke coming out the engine, you know. I didn't know where it was going to fucking explode or whatever. You know, so I managed to yank the driver's door open and got the driver. Oh, obviously, I can't speak French, but anyway, got the driver out and what have you. Anyway, it turns out that the bloke driving in the other car, he was driving with his leg in plaster. He had a broken leg. I mean, unbelievable.
But he had more than that afterwards.
Yeah. Well, as it goes, the driver in the badly smashed up car, all he did was he hit his head on the steering wheel and cut his head open. So, anyway, oh no, tell you what, that was as we was driving down the South Arm, not on the way back. That was as we was driving down to the end of the South Arm. So anyway, we thought, oh shit, we ain't going to be able to go round. So we just headed back towards Pierre's. So anyway, left them to it. Off we goes back to Pierre's. And as luck would have it, I met a bloke. I think his name is Michael Atmere. We was sitting in Pierre's having a beer and some chips or whatever, and he obviously clocked the van with the English reg plate. Comes walking in. Is that your van out there? I said, yeah. Obviously speaking English. Oh right. Oh, well, where'd you come from? I'm from Luton. He's from. I think he was from London or Kent. Where are you staying? Blah 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 blah. I says, oh, nowhere. I says, day one. I ain't got a clue where He says, well, as it goes, he says, I've got a caravan. I own a caravan, sort of 10 mile up the road. He says, if you want, you can rent Joe Taylor's caravan. Do you know Joe Taylor?
Yeah.
Well, Joe Taylor had a caravan. I says, well, we'll ring him up, find out. So rung him up. He says, yeah, I can't remember, £100 a week, something like that. So yeah, we'll have it. Yeah. So at least we had somewhere as a base, so to speak, you know. So anyway, I think the first night I spent in the caravan, had a few beers with the missus and what have you, like you do. So then I started, next day, Michael told me where they was fishing. And anyway, I fished a place called Americanus or something. It's near one of the bars that are on the lake. Hired a boat from Pierre's, so I got myself a rowing boat. Anyway, the first night you weren't allowed to night fish, but the first night I did night fish, but I was in an area, probably the narrowest point on the West Arm, just before it opens out into the West Arm spawning bay. But obviously with water coming into it's a man-made lake, with a dam at the end of the North Arm, and obviously a stream coming in at the bottom of the West Arm, and also you got water coming in and water going out, so there is a flow to it. So and the flow where I was fishing, I mean, you chuck your bait in there and it would end up 20 foot away.
Would it? Yeah.
So I thought, oh shit, right, now I know what I'm dealing with. Like, I'm gonna have to go upstream, but chuck my bait in there and fish there. Like, it's quite a strong current. Like, Anyway, first night I blanked. Met Michael back at the caravan the following day, and he said, "Oh right, try and jump in next door to where he is." Like, Anyway, so as luck would have it, got into the spawning bay, and there was two Dutch blokes fishing one area, Michael fishing on one swim, a Belgian fishing in another swim, and then me fishing the next swim, sort of thing. And then I think I've done one. Well, I didn't want to risk doing any night fishing, so I reeled in.
Were the others night fishing?
The Dutch were, and no. The Belgian bloke and Michael, he wasn't, but that we were literally putting the baits out at 3 a.m. Just you could just it's gonna be late at R3, 4. So putting them out at 3 is no harm in that. So you literally putting your rods out at 3 a.m. and the bite time. Night time was the time to fish. You was putting baits out and there was carp there. in the area. You know, so you could get a bite within an hour.
Were you seeing a lot of fish in that area?
No, but you'd hear at night. You'd hear them. Like it was like people dropping paving slabs in. You know, the boshing. You know.
How did you end up fishing on the West Dum? And sorry, I know we're going. How did you end up fishing the West Dum in the first place? Did you find them yourself or through word of mouth?
No, because I met that Michael in Pierre's Cache. He said, "Oh, well, there's a load of carp down in the West Arm, down the bottom of the West Arm." So I thought, well, might as well start there.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the lake at all, you know. So any information's better than none. So you got to start somewhere, you know. Obviously, I've got 2 weeks ahead of me, so I can expand if I need to, so to speak. But anyway, within 2 nights, I realised, this is the place to be. The amount of hearing at night was ridiculous, like. I think the first night the 2 Dutch lads had a few upper 30s and a 40. The first day Michael had one and the Belgian bloke had one, but I was on the fringes of where I needed to be. I knew where I needed to be, where the Belgian bloke was. He was in pole position. Well, the Dutch blokes were in a good spot, but this Belgian bloke, he was in pole position. And I think on the 3rd day, Max Cottis and a load of other people turned up. Kevin Ellis was one of them. Keith the Tooth was another. He fished Savay. Anyway, Keith the Tooth managed to slot in to my left, and then Max went a bit further down, and Kevin Ellis and a couple of others went elsewhere on the lake. The first night, I don't know if it was the first night. It might have been the first or second. No, it might have been the second night. That Keith was next door to me. Great bloke, never met him before. Again, he left his rods out at night. In fact, the weird thing was, it just shows you how the mind thinks. I took him out in my boat to find a spot, and I said, look, I'm telling you now, everything to my left is weed. It's just like 6 inches off the bottom to a foot off the bottom. It's just like a field, you know, of weed. Not deep weed, just 6 to a foot. So we've gone out there, he's had a look, he says, right, okay, I know what I'm doing. He said, I'm going to fish a pop-up straight off the lead, right? And this is no bullshit. He's put 3 rods out, all with like a 18-inch hook link, pop-up straight off the lead. We've gone out there, boom. I said, you putting any bait in? No. I thought, flipping hell, that's something, isn't it? You know, you drive 1,000 miles to fish a lake you've never fished in your life, and you're fishing 3 single hook baits. I thought, I didn't say nothing at the time. I thought, well, this could be an education, right, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, at night, he gets a screaming run, midnight sort of thing, 1 a.m. So I've gone round, you know, round the bush in the boat, in my boat, round to him, and I said, all right, jump in. He says, hold on, I need a piss. He says, hold the rod while I have a piss. So I'm standing there holding the rod. It's still going out on the clutch while he's having a pee. Then he's had his pee, jumps in the boat, goes out. We're literally like full moon, like we've got spotlights on us. Anyway, we landed this fish, 40-pounder. And I think I said to him, I says, oh, well done. Is that a PB? I think it was 41. Actually, I can't remember. I think it was a very low 41. I says, oh, is that a PB? He says, no, I've had bigger in England. I says, oh, have you? He says, yeah, I had a 42 out of Waltonians. Like, oh, right, because it was that fish that Lee Jackson was famous for catching. I don't know if Keith Petite was the first.
Was it the one that with the friends and everyone around? Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I can't remember
that's right.
Who was first to catch it or not, but you'd have to ask Keith or
it's in the book,
Lee,
isn't it? Yeah,
Lee,
yeah.
But,
I think Keith caught it after Lee actually, because I think it was a bit of a surprise when Lee caught it, wasn't it?
Right, it could have, well have been, well have been. So we're talking, you know, early 80s sort of stuff, aren't we? Anyway, that day, or the next day, Keith decided to go where Keith Ellis was fishing. I'm not too sure. Keith might have actually had that 76.
Kevin Ellis. Yeah.
Kevin Ellis, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. He might have had that 76, which prompted him to move. That could be the case, actually.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure Kevin had a couple that session. I think he had a 40, and I know he had that 76. Obviously, we got I don't think I put a picture of that up.
No, we've
no.
So you were on the lake when he caught that?
Yeah,
that
but He was on the corner of one of the sort of points.
I mean, how much of a surprise was that to hear that?
No,
fish that size?
So I don't think it was. It wasn't really a surprise.
Wasn't it?
No.
You thought you were fishing for those sort of size fish?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 60s, 70s was nothing. Was
how many fish do you think of that size were potentially in
at that moment in time?
Yeah,
I know. Well, Max Cortis had a 60 odd. I don't know how big it was, a 60 odd. And I think the likes of like Richie McDonald, Rod Hutchinson, Albert Romp, a couple of other Savoy lads, and a few other people that they were
catching fish around that.
Yeah. I think like 85, 86, 87 was like the pioneering years of Cassien. And people were beginning to realise what was in there, Anyway, what happened was, the night he moved, I lost, well, I mean, I did have a 40, but I lost the fish, added it up to the net 3 times whilst out in the boat. That was definitely in excess of £60. I don't know how big it was. It was huge. I mean, I don't like to say things like that, but the bloke in the boat, Michael, and me, I think we was when I got it up to the surface, I think we was both mega shocked how big this fish was.
Oh my God.
It was like, I mean, I think my PB at the time was 26. So I'm now looking at a fish way over double that size. And instead of Michael feeding the net out to scoop it up, I think he was expecting me to drag the fish in over the net. And honestly, in the boat, it's hard to pull, because you're literally leaning over backwards trying to get. Yeah. And anyway, cut a long story short, lost it.
Just a hook pull, was it?
Yeah. No. Actually, the third time, I had it up 3 times, and it got down into the lily pads, and then I was sort of like heaving, trying to get it out, and it just come off. Like. So yeah, but that was my first experience of a massive carp. That night, again, didn't fish. Reeled in, at sort of 11 o'clock, half 11, and then we got held up with a shotgun. We got robbed. So that night I was staring down the barrel of a shotgun. 3 French blokes robbed me and Michael's gear, all our rods, our buzzers. Jeez. And it just shows you how far in front I was at that moment in time. Getting back to tackle, I was using adjustable needle bars that my uncle had made for me. This is way before solar existed, right? And I also had Posilock bank sticks, which wasn't my idea. I got the idea. I don't know if you can remember. FGco made a landing net at the time, and it was not a nylon Posilock system. And I asked my uncle, who was an engineer, whether he could make one in stainless steel. And next thing, 2 weeks later, he's presented me with these 4 stainless steel.
So some of that kit you had.
So that
kit,
1986. I had my Delkim, my prized Delkims, my stainless buzz bars and bank sticks, and 3 rods.
Jeez, that was. Did that happen very often on there?
No, that was what happened was they robbed me and this Michael. Then they went over to the Dutch blokes, tried to have it with them. Obviously waving their shotgun about. Of course, they could speak fluent French. They asked to see ID, and then the French bloke said, "Right, you're lucky you can speak French." And then went further down the lake, and that's where they CS gassed Keith the Tooth and robbed his tackle.
Wow!
So that was 1986, and that's a story. I've probably told it a couple of times to a few people, but I've never actually.
It's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
Talking of elusive fish, then, can we get onto that sandy fish?
We'll run through things really quick.
No, that's all right. You can.
I fished here. Met Keeper Tooth, and he said, "Oh, I fish Sabbay and Waltonians and blah 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 in the Colne Valley." I says, "Oh, as it happens, I'm joining Harefield, so I might bump into you in the Orson Barge." Okay, right. Okay, so I joined Harefield. What can you say about Harefield? Very infamous razor sharp bars, and it was like fishing amongst the who's who of the carp world as well. You know, names I can remember: Paul Klinkenberg, Bernie Loftus. So many to meet. You know, I obviously met Steve Alcott there. Malin come along and fished it. Ian Booker, Stuart Gillam, Essex John, loads of people. So I made loads of friends, and it was sort of like, again, it went from when I first joined it in '87. I think there was about half a dozen 30s, and then like 5 years later when I left, there was sort of like 20 odd 30s.
Yeah.
I caught the 3 biggest, doubled up on 3 of them. I think we got a shot at the fully scaled. Do you want to pop that one?
The
up,
fully
maybe?
scaled. That was the one at the time.
That
wasn't
was the jewel in the cake.
Yeah. And that lake. I mean, what kind of challenges did that present you?
Well, there you go. It's the fully scaled.
Yeah, what a fish. Yeah.
Well, funny enough, the first year I struggled.
Were you a long range angler at the time, Martin?
No, like I say, I started off with like silly little fishing. I was only fishing like sort of small lakes, and all of a sudden I've come up to this place and having to cast. Well, some swims you have to cast 100 yards plus. So I sort of geared myself up with the tackle to do it. And I think the first year I had a 3 or 4 off the top. I think I was the first person to catch 3 20s off the top in one day. Second year I was using a crap bait that I thought would do the business, and it didn't. And then obviously I realised, changed bait, started getting bites then. And then after that, me and my mates, Gary and Simon, we come up with our own fish meal bait, and we didn't look back after that. We caught loads, absolutely loads. I couldn't really go wrong on it. I caught the fully scaled twice, Nelson twice. Nelson was 37, 36. Small Pecks. Small Pecks was the biggest one in the lake. I did have lake record at 39.5 in the winter.
Well, there were some well-known fish from the past, though, weren't there?
Yeah. And then obviously from there, again, I sort of followed my mates. I fished Pit 3 just up the road, and then fished.
Did you get into the whole sort of the Colne Valley culture? Did you get sucked into all of that?
Yes and no. I didn't mind having a pint, you know, and there was a few times I went up the curry house. I mean, the story. Some I could give you loads of stories. Some funny, some really, really funny ones, but I won't because I'm saving them for another time. But yeah, I didn't. How can I say? One thing about drinking is the hangovers. I could never handle the hangovers, and that's why I.
Do you think you took advantage of that on the lake then, whenever everyone else was doing that?
Maybe so, yeah, because there was quite a few that like sleep in till 12 o'clock, and I prefer.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'd be in what was known as the best swims, and I'd see fish boshing somewhere. That's it. I'm up sticks. I'm moving. You know, and I moved. I mean, I can remember a few times that I might have turned up on a Thursday, got a good swim, and then. Of course, 2 or 3 days later, it all changes, and you got to be quick on your toes. With so many good anglers on there, you know, obviously the ones that have got a bit of hangover, they're the ones that
sluggish.
They're a bit sluggish in the mornings, you know. So, and first light was the time to do any moving, you know. So, yeah. So, I think I mean, I didn't go. If I went for the weekends, sometimes I go on a Friday night and a Saturday night and have like 3 pints and then back to the lake. I mean, some were like stay till last orders and up the curry house and then back to the lake at 2 a.m, staggering and the pub chucking and all that sort of malarkey, like, you know. The weird thing was, back in those days, very few people, and it's only like later after chatting to them that I realised a lot of them never used to clip up. I didn't know what the clip was for. They was literally reeling in and just throwing them out. It could have been landed anywhere. Honestly, people were doing pub chucks without even clipping up.
It's amazing looking back now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, people. These are the little edges that.
When did you start clipping up then?
Well,
I remember the first time I tried it, and it just felt like magic.
Well,
didn't
my dad taught years and years ago. When I mean, I used to use Mitchell reels. My first reels were, in the early in the 70s and that, were Mitchell reels that my dad got me onto. Well, saying that, my dad he moved on to the Abu. Remember the Abu close face reel? He got onto that.
Yeah, I have one of those.
But I preferred the Mitchell reels. And my dad showed me a trick once with elastic bands. We was fishing on the ooze, and we had to try and the far bank was all like overhanging willows, and he come up with to not cast into the trees was to use some elastic bands. So you have a little cast, peel off a few more turns, elastic bands, and then like in the end you like try using elastic bands so you didn't cast into the overhanging trees, so get as tight as possible. So I realised I knew what what I mean. I did use elastic bands when I used to go tench fishing sometimes.
Because it used to be electrical tape and stuff as well, didn't it? But that's not.
Yeah, but that was on your line. But pre people marking lines, people was getting into like elastic bands on the spools, which, if you're casting out floats or very light ledgers, you're not actually peeling off any line from underneath the bands. Whereas if you're using like 2 or 3 ounce lead, you will actually rip off a couple of turns.
Right.
So, hence, people clipping up. I wouldn't say I invented it, no way. But I don't know where. I can't even remember where clipping up. But it was probably the early 80s.
But it was certainly an advantage then. To be doing that anyway.
Yeah. I mean the people that. Well, we'll probably move on to other people that fish with a lot more accuracy than me. Let's just say, after Harefield, I fished. I joined a lake called Taplow. I can't really talk about Taplow because it's now sort of non-publicity. But I did. That was when Carp Talk first started, and I did manage to catch a few 30s. And then when Carp Talk started, I think I had front cover. We got a picture of the early front cover. Tom, you ain't gone to sleep there.
No, got it.
Yeah, that's where I caught my first 40. So caught my first 40 from Taplow.
There it is.
The
season's first 40.
Yeah, I managed to get a front cover with it.
Martin's fish, yeah.
But obviously, since then, I mean, I still remember now. I love it. It's I can't say too much about it, but it's a bit of a nightmare lake. You've got boats and skiers and all sorts but every lake's got its own little unique things about it, So, but yeah, since then I've gone on to catch quite a few out there.
And your chapter in the book as well, it was your friends, Desperate Dan and Ladders. Did you meet them on that lake?
No, I met Desperate Dan. I've known him for way before then, fishing Woburn Sands. Ladders, I met him on Taplow. Yeah. Again, every lake you go to.
That seemed to be part of the. That was a nice part of fishing there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You seem to have some good friendships on there.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing I like about fishing is the friendships you make. Obviously, you're not going to make friends with everyone, for whatever reasons, but you sort of you gravitate to certain people and you have a good bit of banter. And Derek, or his nickname's Ladders, brilliant bloke to fish with, brilliant stories, always laughing.
Still friends now?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's...
And then obviously Summerleaze is literally one side of the River Thames to Taplow, or to Taplow Lake. So obviously someone showed me a photograph of the fully scaled. I think he had it at 36. I thought, yeah, that seems like a place to fish. And obviously a couple of other members of Taplow fished there. And then there was this talk of this sandy fish.
Was Summerleaze on a... Was that like a club ticket then, was it?
Yeah, it was a club.
Yeah.
Club water then. I mean, talk was possible British record. But again, around that time... was it around that time? It was close to that time. Like someone told me about a fish in Lockwood. And I'll still... Well, I don't know. The beauty of going to some of these places and seeing some of these fish are you've got a good gauge of what you're looking at. So obviously looking at some of the fish in the Berkshire area, I'm looking at 30s and 40s, and I know they've got names and I know what weights they've been out at. So you get an idea of what you're looking at. So when I joined Summerleaze, I sort of had an idea of a couple of fish in there. Ian Russell got me a ticket on there. Small syndicate, lovely place. You know, probably the only place I've fished where you could leave your van unlocked. Real, I mean, proper hard fishing. 50, 60 acres. Half the lake you can't fish, and only about I think there was 18 carp in there. There was a couple of 40s, well, that I know of, and obviously this sandy fish that no one had caught, or no one had certainly caught at a big weight anyway. I know a couple of blokes that fished it 10 years previous to that, when they were sort of 20s, believe it or not. So I may have seen a photograph of it when it was like upper 20, when all the others were like low 20. I'm not totally sure. But then I started fishing Summerleaze. Again, I got lucky the first couple of sessions, managed to catch a couple. The following year I caught jack shit, pardon my French. And then I got onto a rig that sort of helped me, called the Eliminator rig. The reason it helped me was in Summerleaze there was a tench problem. You know, it's the Eliminator rig. Summerleaze there was 18 carp. There's probably 1,000 tench and a couple of hundred pike. So using Popups was a nightmare, you know. And obviously using something, I found, I don't know, I thought, how can I stop catching tench? And for some reason, I tried bottom baits, and then I just hit on an idea of trying bottom baits with a gap in between them. And obviously to keep that gap, there's a couple of methods. One I've kept under me out. I will be disclosing it, but I won't disclose it just yet. But one other method was obviously using dissolving foam, especially when using boilies. You could put your first boilie on, well, put some foam on, then put your boilie on, then put some more foam on, and then put your second boilie on. And obviously cast it out, and it's sitting there on the bottom with a gap.
It's a great idea.
Now, I actually watched tench pick at Taplow. So this is how I've got a little bit of an... The beauty of fishing some lakes is you can learn things from one lake and carry them over to another. So, and that's how I've always tempted to learn, to make my way through fishing, like, you know, take one thing from one lake and introduce it on or try it on another lake, you know. And I never caught a single tench on these rigs. And the fact that I never caught a tench meant the rigs were staying in place. So once you've cast them out, it was like they're out there for the next 48 hours. And
Still use that now, Martin?
I would if I had a tension problem. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And abroad. Yeah, definitely. If I went abroad and I was fishing for big fish, I just think, I've got no qualms. I've caught fish on it, so
you can see how that works. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, to be honest, if you've got a tension problem, obviously you've got to move away from rigs that you're catching tension on. Otherwise, you're going to be doing the recasting, and those recasts could be the ones where you're spooking the carp you're after. And again, catching, you don't want to, you can have tench and carp feeding at the same time, so you don't want to be catching the tench when you've got carp feeding.
I guess the only thing with that rig is it's like a one cast rig, and then you have to change.
Yeah.
But you need to.
Yeah, but I was only casting once, and that's it. Once I've got them out, when I fished Summerleaze, it was more a case of you could use 4 rods, so it's like put mark. You could go out on a marker, put sunken markers in.
You were fishing from an island as well, weren't you?
Yeah, there was one island you could fish from and one bank you could fish from. And what I tended to do was put like 2 rods out on one spot and 2 rods out on another. Go out in a boat, put the bait up, cast out to a marker float, go out in the boat, put the markers out, put the bait out, pull the markers up, back in, and that was it. I'd just chill out, maybe start write an article or whatever for 48 hours if need be. And the odd thing was, it generally was like once that first 24 hours was out of the way, a bite could come at any time. And it literally was. You couldn't set your watch by them. It was like it could be morning.
Bites were always after 24 hours on them.
Well, they was the 3rd year. Obviously, on the last year that I fished there, my confidence was so high I didn't have to wait 24 hours. And if we move on to you pop a slide up with a scaly one. I mean, that year I only fished about 6 sessions. And I think the first session, in 6 sessions I had a repeat capture of 40 pound 4 plus a bream. Then I had a 30 and lost another big fish. I don't know what it might have been, the sandy fish. I don't know for sure. And then I had the infamous brace.
It was,
which was caught in 4 hours. A quick story about the brace. I mean, I went there to do 48 hours on the island. Got me. It's one of those situations again where you learn something from another lake. I'd learned how to fish a lot more accurately having watched some of the Elstow anglers. I might talk a bit about Elstow in a minute, but so it's literally 2 rods out there, measured lines. I was doing using the sticks to measure to get so I was literally I know that out on that spot it's like 18 wraps, and out on that spot it's 15 wraps to that tree, and that's the way I fished. And then when I baited up, it was literally like half a bucket of bait on that spot, half a bucket on that spot, up with the markers, back in. That's it.
That was it.
Right. So that particular morning, I've gone round. It was mega hot, 25 degrees or whatever, flat calm, flat as a witch's tit or whatever you want to call it. And I've gone round sort of like one half of the lake. I ain't seen anything, and I've gone round sort of back of the islands. I saw a few fish around there. I thought, right, that's it, island. I've got to go on the island. So I've gone on the island, got my rods out, bosh, fishing, sat there. I think 3 hours later, one's rattled off. Goes out in the boat, plays it, mega fight, lands it. Result PB 45.5. So I thought, right, I need some cameramen. So who do I phone? So I phoned up my mate Ross, who lives in Slough, fishes Taplow. I rung up the syndicate leader, told him I've got one in the sack, and I thought, oh well, I'll ring up Simon Crowe, because at the time it was like the Rod Hutchinson Dream Team, and so I thought I'll ring him, let him know, like you do. So I rung him up, and I says, out of interest, because I didn't know where Chris Ball lived, I says, out of interest, is Chris Ball anywhere in the area? I said, what is that? I says, I've got a 45 Summerleaze carp in the sack. He's gone, right, give us 5 minutes, I'll ring you back, right? So he's obviously rung Chris Ball. 5 minutes later, he's rung me back. Yeah, he says, Chris Ball's now en route. Do not release the fish until Chris gets there. I says, okay. I won't. Just tell him to ring me when he's at the gate or whatever, you know. So I thought, right, result. Got cameramen sorted out. So I'm sitting there, literally buzzing. I've got 3 rods still out. Anyway, one of my other rods, off it goes, same thing. Flip me. I'm out in the boat, clocked it. I mean, like, this is the fish, like, watching it, the scales separating as you're playing, you know, as it's flexing, and flipping hell, the adrenaline. I was like, I can't lose this. Gets it in the net. I thought, shit, this looks little bit bigger possibly. I pulled it into the boat. Quick, back to the boat. I had electric outboard, so quick, back to the swim. Gets it out, weighs it, 46.2. Luckily, I had 2 sacks with me, so sacked that up. Flipping hell. So I got 1 rod out on that spot, and I'm thinking, flipping hell, I've got to go home. I can't carry on fishing. I thought, you know what? Sod it. I'm going to reel in. I hadn't set me bivvy up or nothing. I thought, I'm going to go home and celebrate, sod it. So I reeled the other 2 rods in. I suppose I should have left them out until someone turned them out, another hour or whatever. But I didn't. I thought, nah, sod it. So I literally packed everything away. I'm sitting there on the island on my own, 2 swims. As they basically all turned up together. So I've gone over in the boat, picked them up, gone back to the island, done the photographs. I mean, when I pulled, I says, I'm not going to have a brace shot because 2 reasons. I says, although that brace shots look good, there is a small percentage of people that don't agree with it. And although I wouldn't say I'm on the fence with it personally, there's not, if you've got loads of mats and loads of people, fine, but there would be nothing more on my conscience if one of these fish damaged itself through not, flipping off the mat or something. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. Okay, I know full well I could have got front covers all day long.
I think it takes away the individuality of each fish as well.
Yeah, I do.
Because each fish is and in the book as well. There's a story of each. And that shouldn't be taken away, should it? How many? I mean, that was pretty much the biggest brace, wasn't it, in the country at that sort of time?
It was the second biggest brace of carp.
Peter Springate.
No. It was total weight bigger.
Yeah.
Than Springate.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
I think it was Compston who had Mary and Mary's mate. So the total weight.
I mean, was that a big surprise for that venue to do? I mean, to do 2 fish that size is.
Well, previous to that, the late record was. I mean, I'd had one of the other 40s that they was growing. They were still getting a little bit. Well, say growing. They were still getting a little bit bigger. My first 40 out of there was 40 pound 2 ounces. I caught that again 2 years later at 42 something. And this particular fish, when Ian Russell caught it at 37, I can remember Kenny Gates from Essex area. He caught it in the 40 bracket. Got some Kenny Gates photo. I don't know if you've seen Kenny Gates' photograph of it.
No.
Yeah, so he got some mental photographs of it.
I think
he was wearing a yellow T-shirt, which really sort of makes things stand out.
Oh yes, I have. Yeah, I've seen that.
He's got Golden Gates.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he caught it.
Yeah, I've seen that picture.
Yeah, mental photographs of it.
Yeah, it's not particularly.
And that's
carpy,
what drove me to think. Yeah, that's the one I want to catch. Okay, the sandy fish was in there, and I clocked that. It was one of them fish. You very rarely see it with the other fish, and I knew it was big. Bigger than these.
Bigger? How much bigger?
Well, let's just say £10 bigger.
Oh, you're talking British record sort of territory. So Terry had already caught Mary then. What was it, £56?
Yeah, it was in that area.
Was it?
Yeah.
Never got caught?
Never got caught. No, definitely never got caught.
You'd see it a lot?
That way. Well, the funny thing was, after this capture, we'll just roll along with the way these slides appear. I was blown away, so that's it. That was it. A 4-hour session, brace of up, mid 40s. Thank you very much. I'm on back home, champagne, celebrations. Yeah, I was buzzing for a few weeks. And obviously, being self-employed, I've got to do certain jobs. So the fishing was knocked on the head for a few weeks. And then my mate Christophe says, "How do you fancy a week out in France? Got a good, public lake. Fancy having a go at that?" So I says, "Well, I'll tell you what. I have got I wanted to use my time in England." He says, no. Anyway, he twisted my arm, come out, do a week's fishing in France. Well, of course, I goes out there to France. Public lake, days only. The first day, we fished about 100 yards away from each other. Oh no, probably about 200 yards away from each other. It's a public lake, so everything's going on: cyclists, swimmers, yachts, you name it. Christophe had, I think he had 3 the first day. Of course, I'd see him so I'd reel in, go and photograph his fish, come back. Hour later, he had nothing more, so I'll go back. So I thought, sod this, I'm going to fish next to him. So near the end of the day, I've decided to go like 30 yards to his left, find a little spot and fish out there. So I found an area between 2 weed beds. I thought, second day, I'll give it a go there. So that we both reeled in sort of 10 o'clock, put 5 kilos of boilies out, throwing stick, and the following day jumped back in those swims, all marked up. Like I say, this is where you do things from one day to the next. So we're all clipped up, all ready. So all we've got to do is literally whiz them out there, fire a few more boilies, top the swim up, and we're fishing. Sitting there, red hot, t-shirt, well, no t-shirt, off with the shirt, sitting there in the sunshine. First bite, well, do you want to pull that fish up, Toby? This one. Bottomed out my Rubens.
Awesome.
And the weird thing was,
I love those ones. The lines on it, just.
Yeah, we drove down there.
You could see. We're looking at the picture now. You could see that, like the holiday makers in the background there as well.
Yeah. Oh well.
God knows what would they make
when
of that?
When I was playing this fish, how can I say it? I've got the bite, and I've just struck into it, and I thought, flipping hell, this feels like a weed bed. It felt like I just looked at a sack of cement sort of thing. So I'm leaving, so I'm just walking backwards up the grass bank, sort of So I've walked up to the top, and I've gone back down to the front, and really, I was just carried on. It just felt like I had a weed bed. That's what it felt like, a Wendy House size weed bed I was pulling in I did. That's what it felt like. Weren't kiting left or right, just big heavy weight. So each time I went back and went forward, another 2 or 3 people would gather around. Now in the end, this is no bullshit. Christophe had his camcorder out, videoing it, and I had 20 people literally looking over my shoulder, all gathered round at the top. I was thinking, flipping hell, give us a bit of elbow room, So anyway, Christophe's going, "Come on, hurry up!" I had no idea what I was playing. I thought it was a weed bed. So anyway, about 15 yards out, it's rolled out. Christophe's still filming. He says, "How big?" Sort of swirl on the top. I said, "I don't know. I reckon it's a 40. Another 5 yards closer. What do you reckon? I says, "I think I'm going to change my." I says, "I reckon that's a." I says, "That looks 50 plus, mate." So look big, Of course, coming over the net cord, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's filmed it all the way to the spreader block. I says, "I think we're a bit bigger." I says, "I don't know. We've got it in and out." I says, "I don't think our scales are going to be big enough, mate." No. So obviously gets it out, bottomed out the Rubens.
Bottomed out at 60.
Bottomed them out at £60. So thought, well, shit, what to do? So the only thing we thought of a way of doing it, because the Reuben scales, you can wind them back 4 or 5 pound. So we basically wind them back as far as they would go, put them back up, and we come to the conclusion 62.5. So I don't know whether how accurate that. I know it's over 60. I'm happy to say 62.5.
It's not just the weight; it's the look of that fish as well, isn't it?
I was blown away. First bite. The odd thing was, as we was driving down the lake in Christoph's van, because he can speak fluent. Christoph's French, but he lives in England. We're driving down in the van, and on his dash on the dash light, he's got what's the Carp magazine? French man.
I don't know.
Any Carp magazines come to mind, Toby?
You're asking the wrong person there.
Oh, right. It's one of the French Carp mags.
He's definitely asking the wrong person.
Of course, on the front cover is this French record leather.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we've caught that. And of course, we're looking at his camcorder, and we reckon... I said, hold on a minute. It's the same bloody fish.
Was it?
That was what they used to call the French record leather.
Was it really? Wow.
And we didn't even know it.
Wow.
I think it was like...
Did that not have any scales on it at all?
Well, one side had a couple of scales, and the other side had one scale.
Well, not that...
it's not a pure leather.
Well, we
not
yeah,
what we call pure
yeah.
levers, yeah. But they called it... in the magazine, they called it the record leather. Well, I don't know whether the locals on that lake called it the leather.
But anyway, it was, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it did come out at £70.
Did it?
Yeah. So
really memorable fish.
Yeah.
Just getting back to Summerleaze. So sandy fish just disappeared, did it?
Right. Well, the last I wrote, obviously in the first book, I didn't really write so much about it. And obviously in the second book, I wrote all what went on at the lake. Obviously, I'd had 2 repeat captures, 2 different 40s repeat captures, and obviously I didn't really want to do any more repeats. It's not really, what we go fishing for, is it? And obviously I knew this sandy one was the jewel in the crown, and I wanted to catch it, and I sort of like, in the sort of 6 months prior to me going back there sort of thing, I thought, well, I need to be fishing areas that I haven't fished, or looking in areas that I haven't really looked at properly. And the first half of the lake is called No Carp's Bay. There's an area called No Carp Bay. And we all know what No Carp Bay means. It means, they do get in there. We know that, I photographed Marion for my mate at 56, 55 and a half. No, 55 and a half, I think I weighed it in No Carp Bay at Raisbury. So, that's it's always a good place to look. So anyway, I've gone over this No Carp Bay, head over the side of the boat for a whole day, literally. I spent a day looking for somewhere to fish in this bay. The bay's about, probably only like 2 or 3 acres, probably 2 or 3 acres in size, sort of area. And as luck would have it, I found a feature that I can only describe as a rubbing spot, and all it was a 9-inch hollow concrete block on the bottom, which was obviously used to tie one of the buoys. He's obviously lost the rope, and so just on the bottom was this concrete block, and all around this block was an area probably the size of this table of clean gravel, sand and gravel, like on this concrete block. All around it, Canadian, all over, right?
What a spot.
So I thought, as soon as I found it, I thought, what a spot. Yeah, this looks good. So I thought, I'm going to throw some bait in on here and come back the next day. That again, I've never, a lake I've never really written about was Kingsmead. I was fishing Kingsmead Lake as well at the same time. So what I was doing, I left my personal fiberglass boat at Kingsmead and used the syndicate boat at Summerleaze, okay, because they had a boat we could use there. So what I was doing was I was baiting that spot. Or what I did was instead of put bait on that spot, I've put bait all the way around it. So I was putting hemp, corn, pellet, broken boilies, tigers, and baiting the edge of the rim of that spot on the weed to try and increase the size of the spot. And obviously I did put some bait on the spot as well, but just to try and make it bigger. It's easier to get 2 rods on it as opposed to 1 rod, because it was quite a small spot. Anyway, over the course of about a month, I probably baited that spot about 6 times. And so what I used to do was drive there, bait the spot, back in the motor, go do a couple of nights on Kingsmead, come back, check the spot, any remaining bait I got, bait it again. So I was fishing one lake but baiting another lake, so to speak. And then over the course of say a month, I clocked the sandy one on that spot 4 times. And once I had to wait for it to move off the spot so I could put some bait in. So I thought it was like finding a golden nugget. You can imagine like these in the gold rush times. The first boat to find gold in America or Australia. I found the spot. That to me, I nicknamed it Sandy Spot. Because if you're going to catch sandy, you're going to catch it from that spot. I obviously fed elsewhere, And of course, the first night I fished it,
God, you must have been excited.
Well, again, what I did was I'd gone out in a boat with a marker rod. So this is how I sort of getting back to how to fish little spots accurately. Went out there with a marker rod, popped it up, gone back to the bank in the boat, to the swim, so I've now got rod, braid, marker, boom, so I've got a measure for that spot, right? I won't give you the actual measurement, but let's just say it was quite long, it was over 90 yards, right? Not much over 90 yards, but so I've got a measure. I can't remember the actual reps. I did do reps, but I can't even remember. But I got a measure for it. And the weird thing was, I also put a measure out on the road. There's a lot of little track road that goes out behind the swim. But so the first session, I went fishing there. I had 2 rods. Before I'd even cast out, I've already got them clipped up to that spot, and my marker to that spot. Right, so I was fishing 2 close in and 2 to that spot. I turned up. This is no bullshit. I've turned up. No one in that swim. Gone in the swim. Went out in the boat. Sandy's on the spot. I thought, fucking hell. I daren't get too close, because when you clock something feeding, you don't want to get, you're out there in a boat and it's literally like, 20 foot away. And I could clock it from 20 foot away. I knew what I was looking at. It was massive, like 55 pound plus, And it's in, how deep is it? I think it's about 6 foot of water, 6-7 foot of water. Quite clear, pretty clear water. And thought, right, I'm going to have to wait, give it an hour. So I gave it an hour, got everything all sorted out. Goes back, hour later, went out there, gone. Had a little mosey around in the boat, couldn't clock it anywhere. I thought, well, that's it. I'm fishing here for 48 hours, we'll see what happens. Put a marker out, 2 rods out, 2 clips up, gone out there, I could actually see my rigs on the bottom. And I thought, well, I'm happy with them. One was right on the edge of the spot, and one was sort of nearer the middle of it, so to speak. And the spot had grown from the size of this table, which let's just say it's the size of a brolly, it's now the size of 2 snooker tables. So I'd managed to So obviously tench and carp were diving into the weed and ripping it up, and you know. So, well, say I might be exaggerating there. Let's just say 2 snooker tables. So it's easy to get 2. You know, you couldn't. It'd be. I mean, some of the Elstow anglers could probably put 4 rods on that spot, but I could put 2 on it. So I was happy with 2. So this is no bullshit. I cast out about 6 o'clock, and my first bite was 8 o'clock in the evening. 2 hours waited. As soon as I hooked into it, I went bang. Cement block sort of.
Was it?
Feeling like I thought, fucking hell, this is big. And I don't know why I didn't jump in the boat, but anyway, I'm fucking playing it. I thought, yeah, this feels really big. Like, I don't know. You just know it ain't a 20. You know it ain't a 30. So I'm playing it from the bank, and as I'm playing it, it's sort of kiting right. And I think, well, I know I've been out there in a boat. I know, okay, there was weed, but it weren't like top to bottom stuff. It was like literally about 2 foot off the bottom top, so nothing really serious, like, you know. And also, I could feel it rubbing through the weed. You know, you get that juddery sort of. I thought, I think it's going through weed. And I was just thinking about getting in the boat.
Oh no!
Live cut, £15 GR60 through like a razor blade. I was gutted. I just threw the rod down. I just walked around. I've never. I mean, we're all gutted when we lose fish, but I think I dropped to my knees. I was that gutted. I dropped to my knees. I just was like a fucking.
That was it.
I was convinced it was that fish. I was convinced. So anyway, I thought, well, I don't know for sure. I've still got 3 rods. I couldn't bring myself to tackle up the rod and get it back out before dark. I thought, sod it, I'm going to leave it. Anyway, 1 in the morning, the other rod goes, £40 mirror. So a small consolation prize.
One you'd already caught?
No, celluloid. That was one of the repeat. That was a repeat. Yeah, cluster at £40 for. The following day, I went out. There's an out of bounds area, a little sort of snaggy area where they sort of sometimes congregate. And the only fish that I could honestly say, I was watching them for 2 hours in the boat. The sandy one was in there, and it just wouldn't come out. So I had a sneaky feeling it might have had a rig in its gob, sort of thing. I couldn't say for sure. You know, there was another angler there. I told him. I said, I don't know.
Wow.
So that was that. And then there was a little. I won't say too much about it because obviously what happened after that, I've written about it in the book.
Yeah.
And I jacked my ticket in.
What a shame.
A week or so later, I couldn't bring myself to fish there because of what went on.
Yeah. Nothing
to do with losing fish or anything like that.
Politics gets involved again, doesn't it?
Yeah. Small syndicate. You know, obviously, some people didn't like me, and that was that. So then I had an Elstow ticket as well, so I concentrated on Elstow.
That's got to be one that sort of lives with you a bit, though, hasn't it? That fish.
Yeah, I mean, the fish that really, I mean, a few fish have stood out in my lifetime. I've got some regrets of seeing. One regret, I mean, I did fish Colmere and I clocked the big common in there, and I wished I'd fished for that. Everyone fished and caught the mirror.
Do you really think that common was bigger then? Was that a bigger fish?
Colmere, it was as big, definitely.
Did it get around with that black mirror a lot?
I don't know, because I never went over there. I mean, I had it feeding with the Colmere mirror.
Did you? You had the two feeding together?
2 feeding right bang next to each other.
Didn't Dave Lane say that it might have been him when he caught the black mirror? He thought that the common was with it, and they were fed together, and you're going to get one or the other, and that's why the common always evaded capture.
Possibly. I know a few people did clock the common. I know that for a fact. The biggest common that I heard of getting caught was, I think, was it Dave Manning had up a 30? That definitely wasn't the big common. The big common was £20 big. 15, £20 bigger. That sort of, it was significantly bigger.
It's carp fishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all those. How big do you think the Lockwood fish was?
The Lockwood fish was, at the time when I fished it, the record was 51.5. And then when I was on the banks of Lockwood, I got a phone call, 55 Duncan K's, and I was gutted.
Yeah.
Because not that to discredit the Duncan K fish, I always felt
was
in
it
my
spawn?
heart.
Was it carrying spawn as well? Wasn't it that?
Yeah, that's a lot of spawn.
Two-tone.
Yeah, the one in Lockwood was carrying 0 spawn. It was just massive. I called it the sub because it looked like a submarine.
Well, you're fishing the right venues. You're in the right area at the time, weren't you? For all these fish?
I mean, in fact, that year I fished it, I clocked another couple of fish. I would have said 40s, and that was the first year that it legitimately done its first 40.
Right.
But there was still one in there, £15 bigger.
Wow. Before we wrap it up, you've just come back. You've had some bad health recently.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky I'm here, really. I suppose I've got to thank my daughter Kirsty for saving my life. I had a heart attack. Don't know. Do you want to hear about what it's like to have a heart attack? It's not fishing, but
yeah.
It's something I'll never forget.
You had heart problems, or?
Well, what can happen when you have a heart attack is part of your heart dies, and obviously you can have other complications. I mean, I was probably lucky. I only had one stent fitted, and when you have a heart attack, they obviously like to monitor you every 6 months and either do a CT scan, keep a check on how you are. I did find I think 6 months later, they found a blood clot in my heart, and then I had to go on to warfarin. But they also found I've also got a leaky valve. Basically, the blood's not flowing around my body, as it should, and there was a couple of years I kept thinking, you know what? Well, they did say they'll probably do an operation within 2 years, but I keep having scans and they keep saying, well, my symptoms don't warrant having an operation, so they're not going to operate until they deem it necessary. The thing is with a heart, it's sort of like it's one big muscle, but it's two. It's one's doing that like that. So sort of half your heart's blowing and the other half sucking, so to speak.
Did you say you were lucky with this, that your daughter was?
Yeah, I mean, when I had the heart attack, I mean, this could happen to anyone. I mean, I should imagine it's happened to a lot of people and they've died. Obviously, George Michael, same thing. You could just, if no one's around when you have a heart attack, you could quite easily die. I mean, what happened was with me, I was having a little snooze. My daughter lives in Bristol. She used to live at home in Luton, but she's a drum and bass producer, and Bristol's the place to be, so that's where she's living, in Bristol. And she used to come back to Luton every month or so for a couple of days, and as luck would have it, she was back in Luton, so her bedroom's next to my bedroom, and I was having a little snooze, middle of the day. I was off work. I pulled a muscle in my shoulder the week before, and what happened was I woke up and I sort of put my feet to the side of the bed, and I had a pain in my shoulders. I can only describe it as if someone's parked a bloody bus on them. It was like excruciating pain in my shoulder, in both shoulders, and then the pain shot across my chest. And then within 30 seconds, I'm going real sort of hyperventilating, panting. I'm thinking, shit, what's happening here? This ain't right. And I was in panic mode, literally panicking. I thought, oh shit. So I've called shouted, Kirsty. So she come in the bedroom. I says, ring 999. I'm having a heart attack. Something's happening. So I'll give you two sides of the story. I didn't really know what was happening. So next thing I can remember is I'm sitting there on the bed in pain, and it's like my hearing's gone. I can just see my daughter with the phone in her hand, like, you know. And so I'm not quite passing out, and the pain was so much. Also, I thought, oh God, so I had to kneel down on the floor and raise my arms and put them on the bed because the pain was just so much, like, you know. And I could see her talking on the phone, and then like a minute later I said, oh, I'm going to pass out, and that was it. I was out on the floor. Next thing I can remember was paramedics lifted me up, putting me on the bed. They put a tablet in my mouth, which I think went into a gap that I did, in my old teeth. I've got no teeth now, peeps. Talk about that in a second. So they put and they've got all the probes on me, and I don't know. There was three paramedics there. I was told later. I didn't remember what was happening at the time. So next thing I know, I'm getting carried down the stairs, in a little chair. Blue lights go on. Off we go up the road. I'm thinking I'm going to go to the L&D, which is literally a couple of miles up the road. I said I'm going to be sick, so I put my head in a plastic bag. So I puked up in a plastic bag, and off I go. The next thing I can remember was waking up with like bright lights around me, and I could hear a few people talking, and it felt like someone was painting cold water on my bollocks. That's what it felt like, and then that was it. I was out again. Next thing I remember, waking up 2 hours later in a ward. Opened my eyes and my wife's there. She says, "Oh," I says, "Oh, where am I?" Like, she says, "Oh, you're in Harefield Hospital. You blue lighted Luton all the way. So you had a stent fitted. They went up through a vein in your groin. That's why they put iodine on your groin. They go up through a main artery, and that's how they fit the stent." Getting back to the conversation with my daughter, she phoned 999. They said, "Oh, it don't sound life-threatening. Ring 111. Well, thank God she didn't. She rang my wife to work. My wife said, what's your dad doing now? She said, "Oh, what? He's just passed out. He's on the floor." So she said, "Right, I'm on my way home now. Ring 999 again and tell them."
Really lucky, weren't you?
Yeah. So,
easily could have.
I don't think I would have had enough time to grab my mobile. I don't even know what, I was.
You would have passed out.
Yeah.
So a different reflection on life a little bit now.
Yes,
This new stuff you've got going on, is that kind of down to that a little bit? Or?
Well, what happened was, and it turns out, obviously, through Facebook and talking to other mates, Facebook went into meltdown. My daughter put a post up on Facebook. I think I had like 600 comments, about 100 odd private messages and all that. And another mate of mine, he had heart problems. He never had a heart attack or nothing, and he wheeled his wheelbarrow around a lake, no electric power, had a heart attack and died on the lake. Someone found him, all the tackle on the barrow, and found him dead on the lake. So I thought, sod this, I'm going to go out and buy. I went out and got electric power ports sorted out straight away. I thought, sod that, I know how fragile life can be, and at the end of the day I'm not going to be on this planet forever, so sod it. I got the money, bosh,
absolutely,
get a power porter. So.
And well, you got some exciting stuff to come out. At least you made it anyway.
I've got loads to talk about. Loads. Like I say, I've got loads of funny stories from. I mean, every lake's got a funny story. Obviously, I might be dropping out of Elstow's got its problems now. HS2 apparently have bought it. They might be filling it in. We don't know for sure. it's had its otter problem. Well, the whole of Bedfordshire's got otter problems now.
Have you seen any HS2 activity around there at the moment?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I've got video footage yesterday.
Right.
Of
is the line going? Is it going right?
It's going nowhere near Elstow.
Yeah,
it's going nowhere near it.
I was going to say. So why was it like?
Apparently they're just going to use it for. Well, the HS2 route is going through quite a few areas where they're either digging or quite a few bits of tunnel.
Yeah.
And obviously we're talking millions and millions of tons of spoil material, and they're just going to use lakes. They've bought other lakes as well in the UK, and they're just going to use these lakes.
Even if you survive the actual route itself, you're
not
safe, are you?
It's nowhere near
God.
We're miles away from it. So.
And getting back to your new venture, so when can we expect to see this? And what can we expect?
At the moment, I won't go into too much detail about it, but I think it's what the country's been waiting for. It's not. I mean, I don't subscribe to the other channels that are subscription based. It's not going to be. Some of it might look a little bit similar to it. I've got some wicked interviews lined up. Some mega people talking about issues that have never been talked about, and I guarantee just the first two interviews are going to blow people's minds away. I'm not going to say anything more than that. It's going to be, and again, without getting into details, what I've got planned and the way we're going to be talking about, I'm going to collaborate with a few other people, hopefully get underwater footage, drone footage, all manner of things. And see, at the moment, people are just seeing, I wouldn't say all they're seeing is full-time anglers. They are seeing other people other than full-time anglers. But mine won't be. It won't be a me thing. That's the last thing I want it to be. Obviously, I'll be getting it off and running, getting this project off the ground, so to speak. But I'm hoping that as the subscriber numbers go, if they grow, then I might be employing a couple of people, younger people, to do all the running around, and you'll be getting different people doing different interviews and different ways of
sounds good. When can we expect to see it?
Well, hopefully this side of Christmas.
All right, we'll look out for that. You're going to be posting on social media and...
Yeah. I mean, I've got an Instagram. It's going to be called Just Carp. I've got an Instagram page already set up. I've got a Facebook page, Just Carp, but I've not gone live with it. I'll be setting up. I'll be getting business cards made, and I'll be doing the advertising on Facebook for every issue, or basically there'll be content uploaded every week.
Every week.
I mean, there'll be some elements that will be up every 2 weeks. There'll be some elements that will be put up every week.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping it's going to be. I mean, I've watched other YouTube. I mean, it's weird. We've all got our own separate little hobbies. My hobbies is drag racing. And watching people do custom car builds and things like that. So I watch a lot of, I subscribe to a lot of Americans, believe it or not, that are putting content. Well, one bloke, Bad Chad, he puts content up every day, an hour content up every day.
That's a lot of work.
Well, isn't it? He's doing it all on a GoPro, just like one camera. So it's easy peasy. He's not even editing.
So you got some inspiration from that? Yeah,
but, well, when all said and done, I mean, during lockdown, I learned how to edit. I'm learning all the time with photography, especially with doing video work as well. That's another thing to learn. and the editing can take a long time, but there's also ways of doing it where it doesn't take a long time, and that to me is like doing these podcasts. I mean, there's very little. I mean, Toby would agree that you might do a little bit of snippet in here and there, but generally it's all one take, and that's the best thing, or straight off the cuff. There's going to be swearing in it, so it's not going to be squeaky clean. So that's that.
Well, very best of luck with it. We'll look out for it. It's good to see you're healthy again, anyway, and
I feel healthy.
I'm glad that we bumped into each other at Manor.
Yeah, it just shows how the stars aligned. And
I'm so pleased to meet you. You know, we wanted you. I've suggested you coming on the show before and stuff, and I didn't know really how to contact you or anything. So just meeting like that was great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Okay. Nice.
Thank you.
Cheers.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.